All right. Sound is speeding, Gabriel. How are we?
Fantabulous.
Ooh.
It's definitely evening energy right now.
Yeah, right? A little bit lower than usual.
Oh, man.
Dale's exploding over here.
I got a full stomach and shit, yeah.
Yeah. How many coffees?
Coffees?
Yeah, tell me.
Not that many.
No? 3.
3.
Okay.
That's
But-
not that many.
Me and Kat are sitting here like we'd get the jitters after 2. I would get jitters after a sip of coffee
Me
because I'm a
too.
weenie.
Like, I'm drinking a coffee right now.
That's what I'm saying.
Which
should
is
be
not
the-
good. Not good.
Is
I
this
shouldn't be doing
the
that,
the Coffee Addicts podcast? Is that what this is?
Mm-hmm.
But you are
Yeah.
not.
Mm-mm. So I'm judging the coffee addict throughout the
Coffee
throughout the
addict and
episode.
his babysitter.
That's it.
I got to turn off my Wi-Fi here because it's keep getting text notifications.
Son of a gun.
Yeah.
So should
My
we
phone's
clap
blowing
in?
up.
Should we clap in?
Yeah, let's clap in. Let's clap
do
in.
it. All right, ready?
Yeah.
So on 1.
Just clap.
Wait,
Ready?
what?
Ready, Kat?
Go.
3, 2.
2.
Perfect. That was perfect.
That was perfect. So we got a
Who do
guest
we have
today.
here? Who do we have here?
We have
The first female guest.
Holy
Let's just
shit.
Get that out
Serious?
there.
That's
Yeah.
Guys.
pathetic.
wow.
Wait, fuck you, Kat.
It's half the world. How am I the first?
Well, you're about to bring us on a new adventure. You're about
wow.
to
Well, that's
guide
really
us to a
exciting.
whole new demographic.
The female experience.
That's it. It's necessary. It's
But yeah,
necessary
we've been
touch.
talking about. We've been needing to get some women on the pod. Here's the
Absolutely.
thing. This is only episode 19, so
Okay. it's
most of
not
the
that
episodes are
pathetic.
just me and Gabe.
True,
That's true. We're trying to get to like a guest every week, so we'll see how it
Wow.
goes.
I feel like you guys have been doing this podcast for a year. Am I wrong?
We're on
No.
episode 19. This is episode
I know
19.
everyone acts like it's been around.
I mean,
for a
19
while.
was
It
Good for
really
you.
hasn't.
You've like
Yeah.
permeated their consciousness.
Ooh.
Yeah, who's there?
Me. Just me. The only consciousness
Okay,
I'm aware of.
you listen to it. Okay.
Thank
well,
you,
that's
Kat.
good.
Thank you.
Yeah, I listen to the podcast.
See, Kat,
She's an addict person.
her voice is louder than you think.
I knew.
Like
it was gonna
our
be loud.
test was not.
That's
an
fine.
I was
accurate-
trying to be demure.
No, you're not. No,
No, I
we don't
can
want
tell-
the
you're
mirror.
gonna be
We
loud.
want you
You're
to
gonna
come
be loud,
in,
which is
we,
fine.
We want you to be the hot-blooded Italian we know you to be. All right.
You don't know
You're
that.
Italian.
She is.
The Pates are Italian.
The pates.
Yeah.
How dare you?
There's a ton.
When
of
I have a
Italian.
It's the
weapon in
Pats?
my hand.
No, it's the Berettas.
The Berettas. Yeah.
Berettas.
Wait, is pate not pronounced pate?
It is not even close. It is pate.
Because
I call it Dom. I've always
I
called him pate.
I mean, for fun,
Oh
but
my God.
you guys aren't
Wait,
French.
Dom?
There's no French.
No, it's
right.
English.
Yeah.
Dom's my
Whatever.
brother.
Isn't there a touch of German? There's no.
I don't think so.
I thought
I
there was
just go with
something
Italian.
Anglo-Saxon in there. Okay.
I find it to be slightly annoying when people start like listing off their ethnicities, like a grocery list. I like to
Really?
pick one and stick to it.
I will say I mostly identify
I only
with
have
my
one.
Italian
Well, I have
side.
two.
Italiano.
But my
Me too.
mom is Austrian, Hungarian, Croatian, and Czechoslovakian. So I tell people like Hungary pre-World War.
Oh.
Pre-World War
Oh,
One.
cool. Okay. Well, our only
Southeastern
like
Europe.
culture in us is Italian. Food, language,
What do you mean
Movies.
by in us?
in us. That's the only thing we practice. Like, I don't fucking eat fish and
For
chips.
your family. For your
Yeah.
family? Yeah.
You guys have red hair though.
So,
So actually,
And
red
Italian.
hair. Red
I didn't
hair.
realize Italians have.
the
Apparently-
Italians you think of are Sicilians.
Yes, it's true. Godfather.
Okay, sure.
Sicilians. The red hair apparently.
Granted, like I've been to Italy. It's not like I haven't. I've actually never been to Sicily, but
The red hair apparently is a
I don't know.
trait
Remember seeing a lot of red hair.
of northern Italy,
Northern.
Swiss Alps or Italian
Yeah.
Alps.
Ah, yes.
So
Not
Okay.
for nothing, but you don't quite look Irish yourself. You know what I mean?
That's just so not true. I look Irish as shit.
The point is
You
that
know what?
nobody looks like anything because, like, what is the look of a Spaniard?
I look Irish as shit. Like,
to
that's
Kat's
just-
credit,
don't.
you know,
An Irishman is redhead, blooded Conor
that's-
McGregor.
No, redhead. No, that's a misconception. Red hair in Irish people is a cross-pollinated trait from like Nordic, like Vikings.
okay.
But that's people
Infiltrating the
think.
gene pool. No,
That's so interesting, because
Irish-
you came in here being like, redheads don't sound like Italians, and then like the
Yeah.
biggest international cultural cliche of
Yes.
Irish is redheads.
and that's just not.
right.
Irish people have dark hair, brown hair.
Sounds like we all love a good stereotype.
We
a
love
good
a good
Caucasian
We all love a good
stereotype.
stereotype, don't we?
That's
well,
it,
yeah.
baby.
Well, yeah. I didn't mean to. The pates, right?
I'm roused.
I'm glad you're out. I'm trying to get you fired up so
Give
that
me
we
my
can get into
fucking
this.
boxing gloves.
Well, first of all, have we let her introduce herself?
We have not. All right.
Introduce
So,
yourself.
ladies and gentlemen, this is the lovely
Katerina
Katerina.
Pate.
There you go.
Not Pate. Not Pate.
Where did Kat grow up? What is she doing in L.A.?
I grew up in New Jersey. I just moved to LA from Phoenix, though, and I
Mhm.
came here to attend a UCLA television writing program.
Let's go, son. So she's
Yeah.
also a
Yeah.
member of the industry, bringing a brand new,
Thank
fresh
you.
take. In the past, we've had directors of photography join
Yes.
us.
Oh.
We've had other
Multiple directors of photography.
This is true. Yeah, that's right. We've had filmmakers join us, some genre connoisseurs. Today, we have our first television
Cool.
writer.
I
Yeah,
love that.
exactly.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, you are
awesome.
the first.
So yeah,
I'm really excited about that.
Let's
Yeah.
think. What else? What else should we know about Miss Kat?
Me?
Um,
I'm a Leo.
yeah.
I
You're a
am.
Leo?
Yeah, like
Yeah, me too.
hardcore.
There you go.
too.
When's your birthday?
July 31st.
My birthday is August 1st.
Damn, son.
Look at
Wow.
us.
That's where all
Look
that
at us.
competing energy's coming from. I
Cool.
love
Yeah,
this.
I know. Yeah, there's a lot of yeah.
Damn,
yeah.
son. I love
Yeah.
this. This
me
is great.
too. Although I like you
Um,
more now. I'm not gonna lie to you.
You like me more now?
Oh yeah, I gotta rep my fellow Leos.
Leos are like goated, like confirmed. Yeah, the best.
You hate us because you hate us.
It sounds like I
Leos are
just
just
like being
goated.
friends with
Yeah.
Leos because Dom's a Leo.
Yes.
Your ass is
Dom's
a
a Leo
Leo
too?
Yeah, his
Me too.
birthday is the
Damn.
28th, I believe. I just outed him to the whole world.
Wait, so let's explain. Dom
Hates that.
Pate
I know.
is your brother,
Dominic's my older brother by 4 years.
and he's an actor in Magnolia Flowers.
Yeah, but we're not
plays
talking
Chucky.
about them.
And
We're
who the
not.
fuck is
But
he?
it's important to like draw. We're gonna keep referencing Dom. I feel like by extension, and it's
Kat
important to
needs to exist as her
clarify.
own entity.
She
in
does
this
exist.
world.
She
Do
does
I?
exist, but it's
You
just
do,
worth
yes.
worth mentioning.
Thank you. Noted. And he will be on at some point. We'll have to figure out what
Yeah.
film to
Dom
bring him
will
on
be on
for.
at some point.
Do family therapy on here. Get me too.
OMG. You know what? When we
Gotcha.
buy the next mic and
We
we,
can't
don't
get-
have
we
sound
can't-
issues anymore, then we'll think about it.
We can't get Dom and Kat in the same.
Dude,
act.
that would
That's
be-
just too
What if
crazy.
we shared a mic?
That'd be like getting my brother physically here to be on the podcast. Like that's not.
It's not feasible.
You wouldn't do it? I feel like that's
I would do
different.
it,
I
but
feel like
I
that's
would- it would
different
be
because your brother's
fucking
in New
nuts.
York, and these two will be here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the bigger blockers, we need
Same
another microphone, and we
generalities.
don't want to have to kill ourselves after every time we plug in all these cords.
Yes. Yes.
Also an option.
Yes. This is the Wires podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Movie Coffee Wires Addicts podcast. That's
It's the Wired. Wired.
Wired,
Addict,
yeah.
Wired podcast.
that's it. Yeah.
That does work.
So yeah, Kat's joining us. We're super grateful for you to
Thank
come in.
you.
She's one may say a last minute guest. One of our friends of Colin, Mr.
Jacob.
Pavlovsky. He's going to join us at some point, but he had to
Oh,
sub
we're supposed
out.
to have Andy for this one, and then
Also
Andy
true.
backed
I'm
out.
third choice. What the fuck?
Here's
You
the thing.
are
We
third.
wanted
I'm not gonna lie to
A-
you. You're fourth choice.
Fourth choice. Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's right. We
Kat,
want you on
that's
the podcast.
not by design, though. I
No,
think
not
the
at
fact
all.
that you're already getting in here after being here for a couple weeks, that's pretty significant.
I also want to go a
Ouch.
step further and say
Wait,
your
why is that
willingness, your willingness to
Should
come
want to be
on.
from the beginning. Oh yeah, my
The
willingness.
willingness, you know.
I did. That was like the first thing I said to you when I moved here. I was like, I want to be in your podcast.
So there we go.
I
You
do.
know,
Okay, so Kat, how much of the podcast have you listened to?
probably
I-
clips online, right?
I
Just
saw
clips.
3 clips last night on Instagram.
Have you just seen clips?
Well, I had to watch it since I was coming on,
Okay,
so I need
so
to.
she's not a true.
No,
she's not like
that's fair.
Havy.
Dale, hang tight.
Who?
How
What?
many people are actually like Havy? Like-
No one. Havy is an outlier.
We have one
Uh-huh.
viewer. He came on the show
No,
2 episodes
the people
ago.
who listen the most are Havy,
Yeah.
Ben Grant.
Okay.
Your
and-
mom.
No, my mom. My mom just watches the clips
Damn.
here and there
Mom.
and tells me not to swear. But
My parents tell me. the
and
same.
I will
who am I? I think my friends. I think Pat Green and Matt Haggerty, my friends who are currently living in Australia. I think they listen as well.
Mm,
yeah, but
that's cool.
Havy, shout out to you, you psycho, because he sits down.
Havy is a psycho. I don't know
Yeah.
who's more psycho, Havy or Ben Grant.
Oh, interesting.
I would argue Ben Grant. The guy's kind of a lunatic.
Yeah, but
love him,
here's
but-
the thing. I would say Havy, and Havy, we love you. Like, he's listening to this right now.
Yeah.
And Havy, I would say you not only listen to it, like, I feel like Ben listens to it to get a good laugh about what his friends are saying. I think Havy's here to get a good laugh, but also be like, yeah, I want to think about this film for the next 2 weeks. Let me...
Well, or he comes on with For Banshees of Inisherin and
And disparages.
calls says it should have been a short. Like a fucking asshole.
Havy.
Um,
Havy.
But Kat, I mean, so you're a Fairweather fan. That's fine. Most people are. No, I'm kidding.
But she's an official
I'm
attic
being hard
person.
on a fellow Leo. What?
She's an
I
official
know.
attic.
You're
You're
person
officially
now.
inducted.
Yes.
Thank
into
you.
Give her a handshake.
There
There
we
you
go.
go.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You can go now. You're inducted. You're.
All right, later.
But
guys.
I
yeah,
don't know if we
no,
told
no,
you it was a
you're good.
10-minute episode. We're just glad to have you. We'll see you later.
So we're down the road. We've talked to this. We're gonna have dinner parties for all the people who have been inducted as attic people. So you're
Yes.
gonna
So
start getting letters.
We
in the
actually
mail
we brought you
about
on
a year
because
from now.
we're gonna need help from you to cook these feasts.
Yeah, we
I expected
yeah.
that.
Yeah. Kat's a really
Can
talented
you start
chef.
working?
Thank you.
We need you to work on for the podcast.
Yeah.
100K a year, no
Yeah.
exceptions. I want
No
dental.
unpaid internship. And
Favorite nations. We're gonna
Yes.
get that in the contract. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Kat, what else? What do you? So explain this. Explain your writing pursuits right now. Explain. You know.
Okay. I started writing 10 years ago, which is wild and stupid. But I started writing film.
Why is that stupid?
Because why am I not Oscar winner yet? No, I'm kidding. Anyway, I started writing when I was a freshman in high school.
There we go.
And it was so much fun back then. It was so much fun back then, and I loved it more than anything in the world, and I miss that because now I want to make it a career. I'm at a program at UCLA. I'm doing a television writing program, which is awesome, and I love my class, I love my professor, and I feel like I'm learning a lot for like being 6 or 7 weeks in. But I pivoted towards TV just because I had an idea for like a pilot, and then from there I really don't understand film anymore. Like, I don't understand how I could tell any story that I wanted to tell in 2 hours. And I find that, like, television is so much more satisfying to me. So I'm drawn to writing pilots. And that's kind of like my writing story. So I don't watch a ton of movies,
That's okay.
which is going to bring, like, an interesting perspective.
What kind of TV do you watch?
Oh, I watch all sorts. So, can I rattle off my favorites?
Yeah,
Because
for
I got
sure. Let's go.
My favorite 1-hour drama is The Sopranos.
Okay.
Yeah,
My
I mean,
favorite-
goated.
Goated.
Great show.
Still
My
haven't
favorite
seen it.
procedural is Monk.
Gabe, after
Have seen Monk.
Monk.
Love Monk.
Monk is my favorite procedural.
it's on what?
It was.
Is it a
It was
network
on
show?
USA. USA.
I think you're right. I think you're right about
You
that.
can watch it on Amazon Prime now, baby.
Okay. All right.
I love Monk, and my favorite sitcom is Frasier,
Frasier.
which is also
Wait,
works
this
as an
is wow.
antidepressant for me. Yeah,
Frasier.
I fucking love
Okay,
Frasier.
wow, really interesting taste there.
Really? Thank you.
Well, it's like Frasier,
Flattered.
a procedural crime show, and
Yeah.
then The Sopranos.
I love
it,
shows
baby.
I'm not
with
seeing
heart.
the link necessarily, but I
She has a ton of taste. That's
what
why.
is
I
the
got a
link?
ton of
Yeah,
taste.
what is the link there between those three to you?
Well, okay, let's think. The shows
If there
all
is one.
have like a very unique sense of humor, which is kind of what like keeps me with this show. Obviously, I don't know, like complex protagonist, blah blah blah. Deal with mental health. That is the link. That's so cool now that I think about it. I never noticed that before. That's a on the spot take. But also, I think
Well,
I
there
just
you go, right? That's why I
yeah.
asked the question. I'm a great
You're a
interviewer.
great
and,
interviewer.
you know, yeah.
It's a lot of nostalgia too. Frasier is my family's show. Like we
Yeah.
watch it as a family.
Yeah.
The Sopranos I sat down and watched with my brothers, and like we all gathered together. And The Sopranos aired when I was 2 years old, so it was like I was a late viewer. But I don't know. I just watch it and I feel like it's a part of my household. I feel like it's a piece of furniture that I can keep coming back to, keep sitting in, and like each time I appreciate it differently.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So the link is mental health. Is
It
that something
is.
that is that stuff that you like writing about as well, or is that more?
I guess so. Wait, let's think. I don't know. Yes and no. So I like to write about, weirdly, don't know how this happened, really unmotivated men. All my protagonists struggle with like a really unmotivated male
Great.
or like a psychotically motivated female.
Interesting.
But I really do prefer to write from a male point of view for who's leading the show.
Do you have a character you'd be willing to share with us that like excites you? You don't have to give names, but maybe like a breakdown of a character you're currently teasing
God.
out.
Will somebody steal it from me? Because I don't have
Well,
it
no,
trademarked.
just give like a little character profile.
Yeah,
Okay.
like some that you're excited about, their motivations,
All right,
etc.
cool. So I'm currently redrafting my. If you steal it, I'll hunt you down and gut you. Okay. Working on a second draft of my pilot, Full Disclosure.
Okay.
Which is my only claim to fame because it placed in a final draft big break concert contest like 2 years ago.
Congratulations.
See, 100%.
Yeah.
Thank you. But the head of that show is actually kind of fun. He's a con man with social anxiety
Okay.
who goes by the name Matt Helders.
Okay.
Who is the drummer for the Arctic Monkeys. It's not his
Ooh.
real name. but he really wants to like rob the rich and give to himself. But I don't know, I guess like I shouldn't tell the whole arc of the series, right? But who cares? But it's like he wants to just like right the world in the way that he thinks is necessary, but he finds that like doing bad things to people doesn't make him feel much better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that weird throat sound. Sorry, guys.
Okay, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
But unmotivated
Nice.
men or psychotically driven women.
Yeah.
Two character types that you're drawn to. Interesting.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I
All right.
like
And
that.
so this is one
That's
of those.
interesting.
This is one of those stories. Is this also kind of like a piece of furniture for you as like a writer that you always come back to and you're excited about? And
Actually, this story is, I think of it more so as like a time capsule because it is like very timely to the first few months of 2019 when I wrote it, where it was just like I sat down and anything that was on my mind got worked into the pilot somehow.
wow.
So it's like very detail driven and like these little, like there was a box of Cheerios in my kitchen, and so like Cheerios are a huge part of the plot. And
Okay.
one of my favorite UFC fighters just got popped for steroids, so it's a huge part of the plot. And there's a snake because my brother's girlfriend just sent me a video of a snake, and it just all came together. And so when I sit back, it's like getting teleported. It's like a time capsule.
That's kind of fun.
And I think that would make writing anything fun. I think that when you look back at like how you write, well, I don't know if you wrote that way, but if you wrote Magnolia Flowers with like your arm itched at one point, so your actor's direction is to itch and itch his arm in a scene. Like I find that that's what makes like it worthwhile to write anything and to watch that I've written it.
Kind of insert that
Yeah.
version of yourself
You get to remember.
into that. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I think of it more as that's I like that. It's like you have like a I like that. Anyway, that makes a lot of sense.
Do you think like a Horcrux? You guys remember that from Harry Potter at all?
Oh yeah, you put a little bit of your soul in it. Yeah, I do
Yeah.
believe that. I do.
I feel so. Like time and place are important. I think, to me, time and place aren't so important as like feelings and the things people say. Those are like my two.
That's what gets put in there.
Yeah, like if someone says something and I'm like, that's awesome. I'm like,
Oh,
it's
I have
going
those
in.
too. Yeah.
But it's like I feel like that's in feelings. I'm not so concerned with like, you know what though, saying that I was working on something where, you know, I have my lemon tree out front and I just like was like I just want to I put a lemon tree into a thing just because I had the lemon tree out front. So I mean there is an extent to which like putting those like concrete details of your environment at any given moment can yield like a pretty meaningful result. I
Yeah.
don't know.
No, I've definitely. I mean, and for me, I've also kind of like. I mean, nothing I've made has ever been like produced or bought, but whatevs. It's come full circle in the other way, where my brother Dominic is my best friend and the only person who's ever read everything I've ever written. I once wrote this script. This was back when I still wrote features, and there was a line in there about how something was like bottling happiness. And he loved it. And when he gave me back my notes for it, he was like, this is really good. I love it. And so the Christmas that year, or maybe even years later, he got me this bottle of body wash from Bath and Body Works. And do you know how they're like stress relief line? And they'll give you things
Yes.
like
Yeah,
calm,
yeah.
relax. This one was called Happiness.
Mhm.
It's this orange bottle of and
That's
he's like, here's a
cute.
bottle of
Oh,
happiness.
wow.
That's great.
It was
Dom.
the best gift anyone's ever given me because it's so
Damn.
thoughtful.
It's very
Dom's thoughtful like that?
Dom
Damn.
Dom can be thoughtful
He
like
can be.
that.
He
He
can
can
Wow.
be.
Wow.
And I loved it, but I don't know, like it comes around, like your lemon tree comes around again, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Huh. But it roots you in a specific place and time.
yeah,
You know, like you're saying, like it's a time
it's a
capsule
mind,
as well.
yeah,
but
it's a time capsule,
Yeah.
definitely.
Gabe.
Was there ever a time when you've been going through your writing journey that you thought you wouldn't write?
Yes, this January.
Really? What
I have it in
happened?
my I was very depressed. I was very, very depressed.
Classic.
And do you think
Classic.
it was like depression in so much as was it rooted in your like career insecurities, or was it more so something that was affecting different facets of your life?
It
and
was the
therefore,
snake eating its tail. So it was
Okay.
like because I was not satisfied with what I was writing, then I was depressed. And since I was depressed, then I wanted to give up on writing. And since I'd given up on writing, and like which is the only thing I give a shit about, which is like really
Yeah.
bad. I'm glad I shed myself of that. But since I couldn't do that, then I was more depressed and the snake eating its tail.
Do you have any perhaps advice for anybody who's similar feeling that, and like how you got yourself out of there?
Yes.
Was it just time? Was there something specific?
No, you need to like I know it's like the bane of depression is that you have no energy to expend, but like you have to muscle up enough energy to like get formal help. Like really you have to. I mean, depending on where you're at. If you are just sad, then I'll just tell you like a blanket statement, like keep writing. It doesn't matter if it's shit. Keep writing. Doesn't matter if anyone ever buys it or if you just look back on it, but like if you've ever liked writing, then just get back to the place where you wrote because it made you happy to do so. Like even if it's shit, don't give up on it. Continue writing it.
Yeah.
Mostly because you will probably look back in 2 years and be like, that's a lot better than I thought it was. I think that like the being in the, how do I say, like the moment of writing it, you're like so critical of it and it seems so shitty to you, but if you come back to it, it will be good. But you got to get the rest of your life in order. I find this like this frustrating of like you only write truly great things from like a place of agony, you know, like the best art of your life will come out of the period of time when you're going through a divorce or your loved one died, or and to a certain extent I find that true. Like when I'm going through some tough trying situations, like the things that I write I think are the best things I've ever written. But it's like yogurt. It's got an expiration date on it. Like soon I won't be able to move. Like I won't be able to do anything. You need to have like a well-rounded life of loved ones and like things that you do that you attain your value from that are not on a page or like on a memory disc.
So when you're saying like get your life in order, get
your
formal
life in
help,
order, yeah.
these are things even outside of writing to like
Yes.
take care of your spirit.
Yeah. Yes, take care of your spirit.
What do you do like for that?
Ooh, this year I have like embarked on yoga, a yoga journey.
Yeah.
I don't care. I know it's cliche. I don't give a shit. Yoga works, y'all. I love yoga. You need to have friends. You need to have a social life. I swear, because I was once like so hell-bent, determined to like succeed, like psychotically driven. I wonder where that woman I like to write about came from. Psychotically driven. Then I was like, you know what? Fuck other people because I just want to succeed. So let me just put all my energy into just writing and like trying to make something of it. But it's a bad plan. Like you
can't be an island.
You cannot. You need to have like a life and outside, someone to talk to, a network of people. I think it's best if they also like what you like and they're working on things and like they're going through their own like I really want to make something out of this and it's not working and you kind of get to like help them, you know, twist the square peg into the round hole. Like, why don't you try it this way? I think that's fun. What else do I like to do? I don't know. You gotta have friends, man. You gotta have like good friends who check up on you. Gabe is that friend for me.
Hey.
Becky.
Dale, as a writer, in what ways do you relate to like Kat's sentiments on like pushing through maybe a script that you're really struggling with or going through bouts of depression or
Yeah, I mean, I feel like what she's describing, I feel like I'm going through right now. And I'm sort of like working my way out of it. I think it's I don't know. I think like I used to be able to like throw myself into the work and it would do something for me to like get me out of it. I don't think that's like where I'm at now.
Yeah.
And so I agree with what Kat's saying that like you have to just look elsewhere. And I am trying to get better at pushing myself to actually like not write, if that makes sense.
Yes. It
I
does.
think it's almost like easier for me to like write and be like, I'm sad because it's not all going right how I want it to, and I'm like, well, all right, like if that's gonna be like your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like do something else.
Yeah. So
I don't know, you know.
Yeah. I'm like a big advocate for like the most important part of of being like disciplined in writing is having days in which you do not write. So I'm a big fan of Issa Rae. Issa Rae is one of my favorite writers, and
What do we know Issa Rae from?
Issa Rae is
Insecure.
the showrunner of Insecure. She wrote, she produced, she acted in it. I love Issa Rae because Issa Rae is self-made, like truly not. She started from a YouTube web show, and
Yeah.
she made her way up to HBO. Love Issa Rae. I think the latest thing that she has out now is like Rap Shit or Rap Girls on. She's still working for HBO, or with them. She's the one in charge.
Yeah.
Anyway, she was interviewed once, and they were like, "What's your schedule?" And she's like, "I write on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, I take meetings. I meet with a team. I take care of things in my life." And I was like, "Let me try this." And it was, I did it the reverse because I have no one to meet with, so I don't need to schedule meetings on
All
3
right.
days of my life.
So
But
Monday, Wednesday, Friday,
Monday, Wednesday, Friday were my writing days,
Okay.
and they were the most, as long as I sustained it, the most productive 2 or 3 months of my writing life because it like you burn out trying to do like every single day. Give me magic,
Yeah.
come from the muse gods. It's
Yeah.
not coming. You need to step back and like, I don't know. It like made it more important when you come and sit down and write and like come with energy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also think like some amount of frustration comes for me because I think I'm very good at writing, but at the same time I didn't start writing screenplays to just have them sit on my desk. Like
Same.
I write them like for actors to start reading the lines and for a camera to come out and like to capture what's on the page. So
Mhm.
like there's something that's why like I'm sort of pushing myself nowadays to like not just make my instinct like let me go write, because it's like I've done a lot of fucking writing at this point and I want to push myself to do to put some of that to use.
Yeah.
And actually make something, because that's what got me led me to screenwriting in the first place.
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
Yeah.
We'll be on next
Do you
podcast.
mind holding this real quick?
I don't know what's happening.
Just briefly for Kat. The camera we use only records for
we
27,
reset. We're back.
28
We'll be on
minutes at a
next
time. We're back, ladies and gentlemen.
Whoa.
So,
That's kind of cool.
yeah, I guess it's to prevent the files from getting too large. I'm not entirely sure why Sony developed the camera that way, but it has a cutoff of around 25 to 30 minutes. So
That's
we
kinda
just
cool.
set the timer and make
Mm.
sure it doesn't turn off. Dale, another question. From one writer who's completed their formal education to another writer who's really beginning their formal education.
Yes.
Do you have any opinions about like anything regarding the pursuit, maybe the patience needed, maybe the respect for the industry regarding actually being a player with like this whole sometimes I feel like the concept of like agents, managers selling scripts is very mythological.
Mhm.
But the reality is like you might have some thoughts on that now that you are trying to move past the formal education.
Yeah.
So, if anything, process, and then you could talk about the industry perspective.
I think.
For Kat, who's starting out.
Yeah,
right
I think. Jesus. I think you need people on the. I think when you're like studying it, I think that's all you need to worry about is just studying it, because. Yeah, I think even if your writing's good, no one's gonna care. So the best thing you can do is be good, and then find like a few. And this is what I'm in the process of doing. I already have one who's my manager, but trying to find at least one other person, hopefully an agent, who a business person, a person in the business, and then hopefully over time like more than one or two, but who are immersed in the business side of things and care enough about your writing to actually like care enough about your writing to actually care about it and be invested in it. I think when you're like studying, I think all you have to do is just go the hardest you can, churning out that material and being disciplined, forming a schedule, like just pushing. And I think also never undersell yourself. I think it's the biggest crock of shit that writers are fed. I think writers are, at the same time, like I say, nobody cares.
Yeah.
But at the same time, people do care. But I think writers are fed this diet of like that they're not important, even though they're like the most important.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's like, I had another writer say to me, humble yourself before the task, which I think like that's very true.
Mm-hmm.
But I almost think at the same time, never undersell yourself. Like always champion yourself as a writer, and like always put it out there that it's something you work hard on, and it's something that you do for real.
Yeah.
And then obviously like have the writing to like back it up, have the craft to back it up, which takes time. But I think writers undersell themselves more often than not. When you have like directors who can't write for shit, walking around with their heads up their ass, like thinking they're great, and they can't tell us they couldn't put 20 pages together that are actually comprehensible.
No, yeah.
So like there's gonna be all these people who can't do what writers do, walking around acting like they're hot shit, and it's like that's bullshit. Like, so I think like just being like, I think when you're studying, you just got to go hard and fully immerse yourself in it. And when you really, what's pretty crazy about that is like when you really start to see results and you really start to see yourself making strides, it's really fucking cool.
Yeah.
And it's you just have to be proud of yourself in that moment. And I think that's really important. And then the phase that comes after that, which is the phase I'm in now, is very difficult.
Yeah.
Which is like then getting other people to care. But it's like to some extent I've completed parts of that phase, right? Like I feel like Magnolia Flowers, it's a process of getting people on board and getting everyone to care and getting everyone invested. And I think we succeeded. Like we made the thing, we got people invested, I got the actors invested, I got the crew invested, all that shit. And so I think you'll only get those like, I think you'll get those moments of getting other people invested. You'll get those moments in like little spurts and little chunks. But like when you're studying, the person you need to like, when you're studying the craft and working hard on the craft, and that's really most of like all you're doing, you need to be a champion for yourself.
Yeah. And
you need to like be a friend to yourself and be excited about what you're doing. Yeah. And just keep pushing and just be proud of like the fact that you're getting better at something that's really hard.
Yeah.
Like writing's extremely difficult. It's way harder than directing. And if you really start to see yourself making strides and you look at old stuff you wrote and it's like not even the same, you're like, I can't even believe this is the same. This is me. I can't even believe I'm the one who put those words on like the paper. Like that shit is, when you start to see those strides, it's a pretty incredible. It feels like you like UFC fighting. But the thing that when I was like really going like the hardest in grad school and like writing things that I didn't even know I was capable. I was like, I didn't even know I was capable of this. Yeah. The thing I watched with Al while I was like in that process, like my second year of grad school, I watched the Conor McGregor documentary. Have you seen it?
No.
So Conor McGregor has I forget what it's fucking called, but he has a documentary about like his rise through the UFC. Yeah. And I was like, that's the only thing I could compare it to. Really? Is Conor McGregor's like, there's no one, like what I think is crazy about UFC fighters is like, yeah, you can have a team, you go up there and fight, and it's crazy, it's so hype. Like I was watching UFC with Al last night, that's why it's on my mind. But the UFC fighter has to be in it because they want to be in it.
Yes. Yeah.
Or else they won't make it. They won't get through day 2. Because, like, you see this Conor McGregor thing, and he's, like, it's, like, 2 months out from the fight. He's training, like, his ass off. He's taking care, like, he has a wife and kids. He's, like, he's in all this debt. You know, he's trying to make it through the UFC. Like, he start getting some wins, and then he gets hot. And then, like, sorry, I'm just, like, rambling on and on.
No.
But, like, and then it's, like, okay, now I made it. Okay, but now it's, like, the big fight. And then Dana White's at his fucking house. like all these celebrities are at his house, his life's changing, but he's still trying to like remain the same person, but he's also trying to like win the biggest fight of his life, and then his knee gets fucked up. And then it's like 2 weeks out, and his knee's fucked up, and Dana White's in his house. They're doing a photo shoot, and he's like, "Nah, I'm good. My knee's good." And then he's got to go on like an 8-mile jog the next morning, and you're like, "How is he even doing this?" But it's like he's doing this because it's like to prove to himself that he can.
So
because it's like to prove what you're capable of. Like that's what I think about it as. Like, it's like when you're pushing, you should think of it as like UFC fighting. I feel like especially if you like UFC, that's what I think it's like when you're really pushing yourself as a writer. It's like if you care about other people, if you're in it because you care about other people caring, you're not gonna fucking make it.
I kind of totally agree
like
with
you're
this
not gonna
right
make
now.
it. Like that's just like the biggest bullshit, flimsy ass.
I find
reason
that
for being
with
in it.
me,
It doesn't
it's
seem like you're like in it because
I'm over that. But I used to get like torn down. I would tear myself down like monthly. Biannually, whatever the fuck, because I would be worried about how people would criticize what I wrote. So it was the opposite of trying to make people care. It was like, how can I make something that is like impossible to critique? How can I make something that's impossible to hate? How can I make something that won't offend anybody, that everybody will love and that everybody will want to watch? And you can't. No, you cannot. It's not possible. And so I had to get out of my head of like, this imaginary audience. I feel like we talked about that once about like the imaginary audience, and like sometimes it can motivate you, but with me, like it turns sour very quickly where I'm like, then they start to throw shit. Like then they start to throw tomatoes at me and like bottles on the stage, and like, and then you just give up on it because you're like, God, no, people hate this.
The fictional audience.
The fictional audience. And so yeah, I feel like I guess I relate to in the same thing of like no secondary person can like trump why you're doing it. Like you need to do it for you. Not with the expectation that anyone else will ever care or will ever love it or will ever not hate it.
And if people are really critical of you, that's when you know your shit's like good.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah, and that's when it kind of gets funny because you're like, I'm good now. I hope people say that I'm good, and that's when people will stop.
What's that quote?
The thing that you know your shit's garbage when people tell you it's great.
Yeah.
And you're like in the room, people are like, this is awesome, this is great, because that's not fucking real. Like, you know your shit's hot when it's like people are invested. Like, you'll see it happen, like when people are giving you notes. Yeah. The better you get, you'll start to see people like their faces are getting like red and like sweaty while they're giving the note, and they're like leaning forward and they're like. They're like, I have to give my note right now, and they're like talking over other people giving notes. Like that's when you know your shit's like gaining some like when it's like getting like better, because people can't help but be invested. You know what I mean? But then it also like some people will try to like throw stones at you. Yeah, it draws strong opinions. But I think like that's when you know you're getting really good, and that's exciting, but also sort of like demoralizing at the same time. Because it's pretty lonely. Yeah. But yeah, like don't be afraid to share your writing. Like don't be afraid to champion yourself. I think that's.
Oh yes.
But yeah, you gotta be in it because you want to be in it. You know.
From writing this, I'm rewriting this pilot about the con man and like revisiting the notes I took and like got from others. I am remembering that. The lesson of self-confidence can take you so far in this world. Like that's the main thread of like how do you get people to believe you when you want to rob them. You gotta believe it yourself. Like you have to walk into any space like you own it. That stupid phrase, but like seriously, if you walk in anywhere with a tie on and like a clipboard and you act like you are supposed to be there and fulfill this purpose and give me all your computers and you believe it, it will happen. Yeah. But if you blink and if you give them if you like lose it for a second, then they're gonna like tear holes in you and they're gonna like see the like holes in your game. But you gotta believe in yourself. Like the self-confidence will literally take you as far as you need to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
As long as you just, you know, like, oh God, I don't know where this came, but like, do you believe you're great? You have to. Otherwise, stop writing. If you do not believe you're great, like, somebody one day will tell you you're not, and you'll turn around then. So you might as well turn around now.
Yeah, I think the thing I was thinking about is like Nick Pizzolatto. You like True Detective?
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, Nick Pizzolatto is like definitely one of my favorite screenwriters, and he has this video where he's like I forget, someone asked him like, what advice would you give to like younger writers or something, and I was like the 17-year-old kid watching this clip on YouTube or something, and he's like, if you could see yourself doing something else, like just do that.
Do it. Michael
But he's like,
Caine says the same thing about acting.
But he's like, if you can't see yourself doing anything else, then just like there's your answer. Like you just keep chugging. But I think like, that I think that's kind of where you have to be at to keep going as a writer.
Yeah.
Is you go, well, there's no turning around because like there's nothing behind me, you know.
Yeah. No plan Bs.
Yeah, for sure.
No
so
plan Bs.
It's just sad. I think like, I don't know. I do have a plan B, but if I like completely fail at every step of this and I'm like at 50, I'm like, I can't keep doing this. Like, I'm tired of submitting. I'm tired of this.
damn, you're jumping ahead to 50 right now.
Jumping ahead to 50, but like,
I'm just saying, you
Damn.
gave yourself a lot of runway if that's the case.
oh,
That's-
right. If
50?
I seriously
Holy
do, I will
fucking shit.
continue to like write in my bed before I go to bed and just smile and keep doing it because it's fun.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot be happy without doing it. Like, if it doesn't make me money, that's one loss. But if I stop doing it completely, that's like the end of everything. So that would be plan B, and I'm like really comfortable with it. Like, no matter what, I'm gonna keep writing. Like, I will be the sole audience member.
But there's your key is like, if you know you're going to do it regardless, then how can we get you to a place where you're earning an income, earning a living,
That'd be ideal.
channeling that desire and talent,
No, that'd be the best.
But I also think like you don't need to be incredible to start earning a living doing it. I don't think you just have to be a good
This is
promoter
true.
for yourself, and you have to be like pretty good.
Right place, right time, man.
Yeah, like I don't think you need to be like incredible to start making a living doing it. That's not that's
I totally
not the
agree
case.
with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Wow.
Hell yeah.
We went into some deep shit. But yeah, I think Kat, like I think you're doing it. You're doing the thing.
Thanks, buddy.
You know.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
buddy.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy.
I'm having a great time.
Yeah, yeah.
I am. So
Yeah.
nothing not to be happy about.
I
Go
think.
team go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I mean, you were literally like, saw you walk in like into the house, and she's like, "I'm going. I'm coming over early to write for a little bit." I'm like, "God damn, she's really doing it."
I did.
She's got shit to do.
And we'll
What to do?
we'll be like, we were said to Kat yesterday. We were like, "What are you doing tonight?" And she's like, "I'm writing and cleaning my bathroom." I was like, "That's when you know she's for real."
Oh yeah,
I had a great
When the
Saturday.
schedule is just writing and cleaning your bathroom, like that's when you know it's
absolutely.
there's game playtime's over.
So I also hope my roommate dyed her hair. Came out great.
Yeah.
You look
Wait,
great, Karen.
oh okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope not in your bathroom. Is there only
no,
one
yeah,
bathroom?
yeah, shared bathroom.
Okay, so bathroom was not clean.
No, it was
After all
not.
that
But I
cleaning-
did write. So I'm gonna go.
After all that goddamn cleaning, and then there's like blue hair down.
No, red. But
Red,
yeah,
red,
she was
red.
dyeing blue out of her hair. So
Yeah.
that's so funny they said that. Yeah,
Damn.
I love. I don't know. I think I look forward to writing more than I actually enjoy the writing itself. But
Yeah.
it makes me happy. I don't know. Don't you go out and you like hear somebody say something hilarious and you're like, I need to put that on paper later. Like I must.
Yeah, I'll just like write it in my phone. Though.
Yeah. Oh, but I get excited to like finally like work it in and like see what
Oh,
gets there.
yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Or when something like
I feel you though.
yeah.
No, I feel you. Yeah, I'm like. I think it's interesting. Like, I almost go in every time, like, if I'm like sitting down to write, I almost go in every time having no idea what I'm about to do.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh God, I know what I'm about to do like 3 weeks from now.
Yeah.
It doesn't
It's
happen,
interesting.
but I do write down you should be working on
I
this.
just mean I'm like, I don't know what this is going to feel like. I kind of have an
Uh.
idea of like what these scenes or what this outline or whatever, like what it might be, but
That's probably helpful.
who knows?
I will say, like, being able to watch Dale over the last couple of years as a writer,
Mm.
he's gotten more and more fluid. Like, he'll be locked in, like,
Yeah.
100% locked into a premise, characters, and character arc. And then after hitting a wall, he'll give himself the permission to, like, you know what, this isn't working. Let's shift the paradigm
Yes.
of what this character is,
Yeah, yeah.
what the arc is.
That's good.
And that fluidity,
The fluidity is the
I think
key.
that's really going to help you go far. you know?
Yes.
Whereas what you're talking about,
having a plan of action for the next couple weeks, that's fantastic. Just when you hit the wall, give yourself the permission to pivot.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
I have a hard time with that. Like, you cannot be like claw-handed onto any part of this. The script's got to change when it's got to change.
Yeah,
Right.
that's hard though to get to
yeah.
that place. But when that's interesting, Gabe. Yeah, you're reminding me of something valuable that valuable skill that I've gained recently. Is just fluidity.
Adaptation, baby.
But it takes a lot of time to like, and a lot of people remain stubborn.
Yes.
And it's like, you're not Bill Shakespeare. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and even even Bill Shakespeare probably had to have fucking fluidity. You know what I
I'm
mean?
willing
Like,
to bet Bill rewrote and rewrote
Yeah.
and rewrote. From what I hear, I could be
because
completely
also
wrong
he had
about
to
this.
answer to like the
Yes.
the
The
king.
royalty and the
And
people.
they were like, "Yo, what's this part about me being like a whack motherfucker?" He's like, "Nah, we'll rewrite. Nah, I'm
the people
I
are
meant
gonna
to say
love it.
this."
I swear.
Yeah,
They doth
Wait,
love
what's
you.
this?
They doth love you.
like the king. You thought the king was gonna like think this joke was funny. It's like, "Yo, you're writing about my cousin, bro," and he's like, "Oh, yeah, sorry, like Your Majesty, I'll polish that up. We'll get that." You know, he had to pivot. He had to
He
pivot
did.
for different reasons.
Oh,
Pulls out the
for
red
sure.
That's such an interesting thing about Shakespeare is just the political pressures he had to navigate.
He did
Because that's like he always wrote kind of in code a little bit of like
a little bit.
you know, it like of you know, he's really writing about some like deep shit that's going on in like, you know, the like
He wrote a lot about
in
classes,
politics,
Yeah.
class,
you know.
but he has to phrase it in a way where it's not gonna
Yeah.
ruffle too many feathers. You know
For
what I mean? He's
sure.
trying not to get guillotined,
Subversive
you know what I
agent.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
Yep.
it's
Like
such
that.
interesting shit. But the
It's
fluidity is since we don't have to navigate that whole aspect of it. Part of the fluidity is just I think being willing to let go. Like let's say you wrote 30 pages, and you're like, yeah, these are pretty good. But you're willing to like literally start open a new final draft file and work on the same thing and write 30 new pages.
I really do
Like
think
that's when like that's important, you know.
I think it's the difference between a professional and an amateur.
Yes.
Where an amateur will get excited about an idea and work on that idea until they believe it works. And the trap there is, as we've said earlier, it's never going to be perfect. It's never going to please everybody. Whereas if you understand the limitations of who's funding the project, if you understand the limitations of deadlines, if you understand who's getting cast in this project, and you just respect the fact that everything that you're a problem solver, be solution oriented, be willing to be fluid. I mean, even as like an actor, you know, there comes a point where it's like, this scene's not working, and the writers know, and I have to be on, like, set in the next 2 hours, and they just gave me 3 new pages. It's like, time to let go of whatever I thought that moment was that I thought was going to get me an Emmy.
Yeah.
Now I have to, like, adjust, you know?
Yeah. I think writing and acting are very similar
For sure.
in a lot of ways.
But writing, you have all the power, and I feel like acting, you have none of it.
Acting is an
I don't agree
interesting
with that.
craft.
That's interesting.
Because...
From a business perspective, actors have a lot of power if they're like well known.
Right,
That's
but
very
you would
true.
agree with Kat that, like, at the end of the day, the spine, like, the entertainment industry rests on the writer's shoulders.
Yes, but they aren't compensated as such,
At all.
but yeah.
At all.
No, for
And
sure.
yes.
Yeah.
Totally.
I don't
But
know,
we're
like,
going to change that.
But yeah,
We're
yeah.
going to change
Yeah,
that.
maybe.
Next,
Um,
Kat, don't leave me hanging. Please,
Oh,
we're on camera.
I'm sorry, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I'm thinking too about like that's an outsider's perspective. Like writers have all the power, but then I've been rewatching Breaking Bad. It's so good, and I'm reading the like trivia facts on Wikipedia or whatever about how Bryan Cranston was like pivotal to shaping who Walter White became, to the point where like when he couldn't resolve something with his scriptwriters, he'd call up Vince Gilligan and he's like, I don't see Walt doing this. Like, I feel like he has to do this instead. Like, essentially going over the writer's head because
sure.
he felt like he knew that character the most.
Yes.
But I say, like, writers have all the power because they put the words on the page and you say the words on the page. That's that. I mean, I guess if you're Bryan Cranston, you know, Emmy winning multiple years in a row, then you
I
have
think
some
you also have to
power.
remember this is where the intersection of our craft and what we're hired to do
Yeah.
intersects with the literal reality of creating
Yes,
a
of
show, a
course.
film,
Yeah.
where like ultimately we're hired as little islands
Mm.
that are all kind of floating towards each other, having like temporary bridges built to one another.
Reverse Pangea.
Yeah, literally. So we can come together
Yeah.
and be a part of a collaborative
Yeah.
process. You know, there were probably a couple times when Dale and I were working on Magnolia Flowers that like
I did a take that like he probably didn't expect as an interpretation.
But I love that shit, though.
Right, and
Yeah.
and that's part of the process. So Bryan Cranston is in this case like the biggest example. We talked with Alec the other day about Jack Nicholson and him doing stuff like this, but the reality is, whether or not you're an Emmy award-winning actor, whether or not you are an Emmy-winning writer or whoever, if everybody's trying to make the best product possible and everybody's invested, then there's I think it's the Toyota company. They talk about this in, I believe, if I remember correctly, the book Creativity Inc. Written by Ed Catmull. He was the president of Pixar, and he talks about the journey of Pixar from the late 80s to the merger with Disney, right? And one thing he talks about is his rise from just like being a guy who, is interested in tech to like running an animation company that still was on the forefront of tech. And he pulled an example from the Toyota company where, unlike a lot of other companies that, they do the Henry Ford kind of like, what do they call it, when you're building on an assembly line. A lot of assembly lines, you've got the head of operations, you've got the managers, and then you got the little peons putting bolts on and all that good stuff. And unlike a lot of companies, Toyota had a big red button. And it basically meant whether you're at the top of the company or you're the peon putting the bolt on the tire, you can hit the red button and say something is wrong. And the point is, it's ideally the case when it comes to actors, writers, producers, where all have permission to press the red button, rather than believing one talent, craft, etc. is kind of like the essentially like the demigod in the situation,
And
Yeah.
I'm sure that the
That's
reality
interesting.
is
There's something
not that,
to
but-
be gained from the red button.
Yeah, absolutely.
Example. It's
You know,
interesting.
there is an intersection between democratizing the process and like movie by committee. Like that's why we have directors to
Yeah.
keep us on track.
Yeah. Well, you don't want the grip being like. I know, like Bryan Cranston has that one show of like the grip throwing out one story of like a grip on Malcolm in the Middle throwing out a
And
joke
there's
or something.
value to that being heard, to be heard. But you don't stop
Yeah.
production and then, fight with each other
Yeah.
and then like
Yeah.
we're losing thousands of dollars just because like somebody was hired to like change a light bulb and
Yeah.
suddenly, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's also cool when people in power give somebody a voice as well. Like that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People should have a voice. They just shouldn't like. Not everyone needs to have the loudest voice. That's
Not everyone needs
influencing
to have a
the-
microphone.
Not
Well,
everybody.
yeah.
You were saying this before in a irrespective way, but like very tangential is humble yourself before the craft.
Yes.
For the the
So,
task is,
you know,
is what he would say.
yeah, before the task, because
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. You could swap in craft.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody comes to work to bring their greatest sense of professionalism.
Yeah.
But ideally, there's time for us to step out of line and maybe say a thing or two and have an opinion. Eventually, we all need to put our heads back in the sand and get to work.
As long as
Yeah.
you know where you
Yeah.
land. I mean, arguably the best episode of television ever written. Arguably, of course, Pine Barrens in The Sopranos.
Yeah. Good one.
That came from like I believe it was their cinematographer Tim Van Patten
Okay.
came to head showrunner. He's like, I had a weird dream, and the guy was like, tell me about it, and he didn't want to because he's a cinematographer and he
Yeah.
wasn't a writer.
Yeah.
But he had this dream that Chris and Paulie got like stuck in the woods and like running away
Such a
from
good episode.
such a good episode.
I feel like I've heard about this
Arguably
episode before.
But the origin of how that story came to life is just as good as not just as good, but it's interesting. But yeah, it was a grip pitching a joke. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
his terrain, but he came up to think that like it was important and
Absolutely.
he could step up to the task.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So
Beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
Beautiful stuff.
All right.
I'm sensing a transition.
Armageddon time.
Armageddon time. Yeah.
We're talking Armageddon time today.
Yeah.
And let me pull up the Armageddon time. Written and directed by James Gray. Its logline is, and this is interesting. I think we should almost double back to this logline because it reminded me of the conversation we were having on the way back from the movie in the car yesterday.
Okay.
A deeply personal coming-of-age story about the strength of family and the generational pursuit of the American dream.
Mm.
So kind of a broad logline. Not
Very
Very broad.
necessarily like a story or plot-focused logline, more of
No.
like a thematic logline. And,
I see the film as a painting
where the director decided to take a palette of
His own blood.
oh my lord, maybe very
It said deeply personal.
yeah, deeply personal. But okay, so we'll say a very specific palette of colors, but
Yeah.
using very large brushes to make the strokes on the
Huh.
canvas.
Ooh, I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah,
Really?
can you?
Yeah,
like,
wait, hold on. Let me
elaborate?
get into the cast real quick so that the people. I disagree with what you just said. I think what you just said though is a very very evocative
Yeah.
take.
I know why you disagree. I already
Okay,
know.
Anne Hathaway is in this movie. Jeremy Strong is as well. People know Jeremy Strong from Succession. People know Anne Hathaway from. I mean, she's a goddamn movie star from any number of
People
things.
probably know her best from Princess Diaries.
Yes, I would say that.
I mean, yeah.
Oh,
Anne,
and The Devil Wears Prada.
oh, great
Classic.
movie.
Great movie.
The Anne Hathaway's legend.
She's
beast.
yeah.
Yes.
What else has she done? She did that
She won
comedy
an Oscar
with.
for Les Mis.
Thank you.
She was in the comedy with Jake Gyllenhaal, Love and Other Drugs.
Oh, I haven't seen
Oh
that.
yeah.
I was
It's
thinking
based
about
on
the
a book.
one
She was
with.
Catwoman and Chris
She's
Nolan.
Catwoman.
She was. Yeah, she's really great.
She does a lot. She can sing.
She
She can act. She can do everything.
She supposedly when I went to New York, when I was in New York, I studied at the Barrow Group. I did like a semester with them. But one of the Barrow Group's big claim to fame is that Anne Hathaway studied with them for a little bit, and she'll actually occasionally talk about her time there
Nice.
and how like
Aw.
it was.
They're like, Anne, please come back.
Yeah, like, she's apparently part of
Anne,
her
please.
education, fundamental growth as an actor was some stuff she picked up there, I guess. You know?
Cool.
All right.
Yeah.
Banks Rapida. He plays Paul Graff.
Okay.
Jalen Webb plays Jonathan Davis. Anthony Hopkins plays Grandpa
He
Aaron
crushes it.
Rabinowitz.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, after that, we're getting into like Mr. Andrew Polk plays Mr. Turkletop.
I like
holy
Andrew
shit.
Polk,
Good.
actually.
We'll be right back. Movie Addicts Podcast.
Un momento, por favor.
Hold on. But yeah, I covered the main cast. We're back. We're back to the Movie Addicts Podcast. But yeah, I covered the main cast members there. I love the cast in this. Yeah, where do we want to start our discussion on that
Broad
point you
budget.
just made? This whole brushstrokes thing
Yeah,
that
so
I disagree with?
Yeah, Dale. Okay, so Dale, I'm gonna say what I think.
Okay, sure.
I'm gonna say why I think you disagree,
Okay.
and then you can completely go from there.
All right.
I am putting out there that the log line that Dale was just pitching to the class, based off the IMDb profile for this film, are deeply personal. But let's imagine the director is writer-director. What's his name?
James Gray.
James Gray. Thank you. Who most recently has done
Ad Astra, which I really like.
great.
I like that
Anything
movie.
else off the top of your head that you can think of?
He did a movie called Little Odessa in the 90s. I mean, he's been making movies since the 90s.
Okay.
Since, like, that independent film boom in the 90s. Like, he was a part of that.
Great.
Like, the film boom that included Tarantino.
Mm-hmm.
And, fuck. I mean,
Rodriguez.
Tarantino-
Rodriguez was
Yeah,
part of that.
Bob Rodriguez. Who else am I forgetting? But anyway, James Gray was a
Edgar
part of that.
Wright. He's more 2000s.
Nah,
He's
Edgar
more
Wright's
2000s.
younger. Yeah, so he was part of that 90s.
You love him. Who's your favorite director? PT. PT's 90s.
PT. Yeah, so James Gray was kind of a part of that. I would say a lesser, like not as famous
Yeah.
part of that wave, but nonetheless a part of that wave. He did the movie Little Odessa with Tim Roth in the 90s.
So
So
James.
he's
James
an indie
Gray.
film. He's an indie film guy,
Okay.
like through and through. Indie film writer director.
Yeah. And so with
yeah.
this film, it did feel walking out of the theater that like it was very personal, if not autobiographical, but that probably remains to be seen.
It had to have been.
At the very
it was.
least,
It was. Yeah,
Had
okay.
he's
to.
been like very vocal about that. But this is coming on the heels of. You have to remember, this is I say indie film guy through and through. This is coming on the heels of Ad Astra,
Right.
big studio flick with Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
That did not do so well.
They also didn't market
at
it
the
well.
box. Yeah, they marketed it.
It kinda
First of all,
screwed
I
it.
think the movie kicks ass. I think people should go watch
Ad Astra?
I like
Yeah.
sci-fi.
I really do need to
it's,
watch
it's
it.
a real deal sci-fi movie. It's really about like ideas and concepts, and Brad Pitt's incredible. Tommy Lee Jones
Crushes it.
absolutely Tommy Lee Jones is basically Babe Ruth in this movie, in my opinion. He just
Really?
comes in and just
Does his thing.
oh man,
I
and he just
miss Tommy
reminds
Lee
you of
Jones.
how much of a fucking legend he is, how much of a beast he is.
Yeah.
I really like Ad Astra. It gave me it really is it's wild shit.
Yeah.
But you know, I listened to a podcast with James Gray recently and him talking about Armageddon Time, and he talked about how Ad Astra was a devastating experience for him because there were things about the movie that people criticized it immensely for that he feels like he had nothing to do with, and I think he's referring to kind of a movie having to go through an entire machine, you know, at the studio level before it comes out on the other side as like whatever it comes out as.
For sure.
And so he's sort of felt, I think, constricted as an artist maybe by that process.
Which, you know, to go back to my point, it's like very possible that he pulled from a very personal place. This is popping a little bit. And now he was given the opportunity to make the broad strokes is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
I feel inclined to think you bristle at the thought of broad strokes because
it's so specific.
that's the thing. And I'm not overlooking the nuance of the film at all.
Yeah.
What I mean by broad strokes, though, is that he's hitting on lots of topics. Like, and I think this is what's exciting is the movie doesn't feel like it went through a filter. He covers many topics through many different perspectives and characters that all have multiple motivations, fears, internal insecurities, and meanwhile, all happening in a world that is changing rapidly for everybody in their own way.
Is it the?
I think so.
The world is very contained in the actual setting of the movie. I feel like it doesn't change at all.
So you have to keep in mind when I say the world is changing, I'm thinking
politically it's
the world
changing.
at large.
I'm
but that
thinking-
doesn't happen on
I'm
screen.
thinking multiple things. I'm thinking usually
It
when I
does
think of
happen
a
on screen,
film,
though.
Battle to the
I
Death.
disagree. Kat and I are
Gary,
about to.
Are
Let's
you
do-
seriously going to say?
Wait,
the-
hold on. I'm going to finish my
It
point.
does happen on screen,
before I kill you
for
both.
sure.
I'm going to finish my point. When I'm talking about these things, I'm talking, and I'm just going to repeat this till the day I die, in terms of
Okay.
like the way I view.
You think till the day you die?
Probably the way I view a film. We'll see if I change my
Wait,
mind.
hold on.
30 seconds
You're
from
on
now.
your deathbed right now.
Yeah.
This is the most important thing on your deathbed.
Gabe, what's
Dale.
what was that thing you always said?
Cat. Okay. So here's the thing.
Well, tell us, buddy. Spit it up.
Movies exist on 4.
No, whoa, no, we lost the. Oh, Gabe. No, we lost that wisdom.
So like
to-
Ghostgabe just wakes up.
Yeah.
Thanks for saving me, guys. So they exist on 4 levels. You have global.
Okay, sure.
You have
We're talking. Wow, this guy's talking the talk right now. Okay.
I guess 3. Global.
Yeah.
Interpersonal.
Yeah.
And then internal.
Okay.
And all of these
That was
things.
3. That wasn't 4.
Yeah, forget
Okay.
the 4. He died. Remember that?
National.
Yeah,
That's why he died. He said
okay.
the wrong thing.
Okay, sure. Okay.
So in my opinion, no, Kat, I'm going to give pushback, and I'm going to say I do think things change because globally, they're going through the election, and everybody has their own opinions on what's going on with that, and it does kind of show the world that the older generation came to, the reason they came to the country. That country is changing, and now the new generation doesn't even understand what the the older generation's motivation for coming there was. So that world's changing. Interpersonally,
Yes.
within the family,
Okay.
we have the death of we could say patriarch, but the patriarch word
I would
feels
say
kind
patriarch.
it feels kind of misused though, because whereas
Patriarch, not with a negative connotation though.
No,
he's
no.
He's the.
Why
Yeah.
would patriarch have a negative connotation?
well, if,
I
you
mean,
know.
it's. I would say
Patriarchy.
I use it. Typically, I use it with a bunch of negative.
A patriarch is a head of a family, just like
Sure.
a matriarch
A
in
male
some
head of a family,
families.
though.
Some
Yeah.
families are matriarchal.
yeah, for sure.
in which. But I think right now we live in a moment where patriarch has
A lot of
I would
People-
say patriarchy.
Yeah. So in this film, there's a gentleman.
Kat and I are gonna fight.
We're gonna fight.
I can't wait. There's a gentleman in the film who goes through. What's up? Timeout.
How many spoilers can we give?
We
in
give
this
spoilers.
podcast?
That's
Yeah,
just
we
how
can
we
spoil
roll.
everything.
Yeah, we
Okay.
spoil everything.
Continue.
Maybe
Yeah,
if you listen to the podcast.
Shut up! I watched 3 clips.
Damn, shots fired.
I'm a busy girl.
We know
She
you
goes,
are.
all I wanted to do is come on the podcast.
I didn't want to
Hasn't
go on
listened
the
to
podcast.
You're already
It's totally
immersed
true.
in LA culture, just lying your ass
Kat,
off.
I'm just.
No.
I did want to come on the podcast. I just didn't say I would watch it when I was on it.
Kat,
I'm kidding, I'm
oh my
kidding.
goodness! All right, so we got the global where the world is changing.
Yeah.
We have the interpersonal.
You're talking that talk right now. You keep going.
That's it, baby. We have the interpersonal where we're experiencing the death of a family member and a leader of a group.
Totally agree.
Also, we have our protagonist. He goes through a big shift. He goes from everything he knows and all his friends he knows to being pushed into a new school. So that's a lot of change. And then internally, I think the father is being forced to reckon with the way he's treated his children. I think the mother's being forced to reckon with the reality that, like, her father's not going to be around forever. And I don't think she really, like, it almost happens in the film where, like, you don't, like, you know it's on the table because he's the oldest in the household, but it doesn't become real until it's real, and
Well,
you
it's
see
set up
that
from
for
the
mother.
beginning. He asked for her help standing up on that rocking chair.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. And that's why, if anything, in terms of like screenwriting and setting up the rules of the world, or like Chekhov's gun,
It's okay.
that it's just a little gift to the audience to cue you into, like, this is a possibility. But yeah, so I do really believe that there are things changing in this world, as to whether they feel fully transparent, whether they're easy for the audience to pay attention to, whether they feel necessary. That's for you guys to go fight about. I'm gonna hang out over here and just tap out right now.
Sure. It's gonna be a gunfight over here, man.
All right. Did we brandish our weapons?
Well, Kat stepped into
my
the
bare
movie addict
hands.
saloon.
Kat's gonna beat the
She's-
shit out of you.
With her bare
She stepped into the
hands.
movie addict saloon. She thought she was the new
Dude,
cowgirl in town.
This is
New
where we
cowgirl
play the
case.
sound effect
'Cause
for
I'm the
like the
sheriff.
old
I'm the
Western
sheriff.
film. This
Yeah.
is where we play the soundboard.
I'm the sheriff. She thinks she's gonna come in here, cause a bunch of ruckus. No, sir. No, sir. All right. Anyway, Gabe, you're making some very intelligent points here.
I'm an intelligent guy.
He crossed
are.
his hands.
I'm surprised.
And my legs.
I typically think of you as a friend of mine with lesser intelligence. I always say to
No, of
people-
course, that makes sense.
I say to people, listen, Gabe, nice guy.
Here's the thing.
On the brain side,
He's not so smart.
not a smart guy.
You gotta understand. Every
I
time
have to usually warn people before,
every time I go to
for
bed,
introductions.
I make my bed before I go to bed, and people think I don't actually do that. I do it when I wake up.
Yeah.
Because I'm smarter than Dale. Dale doesn't even make his bed at all. It just sits like
That's
that
not
all
true.
day
I make
long.
my bed every morning.
I want proof.
I want people to know that.
I want
it's a
proof.
very important part of my daily ritual.
I also eat oatmeal every morning for breakfast. What do you eat, Dale? Tell me what a
Nothing.
smart person eats.
I don't
smart people.
eat food.
Smart people don't eat
Consume
breakfast.
thoughts.
Clearly,
I don't eat food.
Dale just drinks coffee,
Oh God, that's the worst.
which is
thing you
probably
can
why
do
I'm a
for your
dumbass because I
body.
don't drink coffee at all, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Hard to tell whether coffee makes you a lunatic and extremely unhealthy, or if it makes you a fucking genius.
Coffee is a drug. Period. The end. You can become dependent on that drug,
Ooh.
Yeah.
and then you can't function without it, or you could not use it and you just function without it.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the person who
We're
has?
totally getting off track with the movie, but it's okay. It's fine.
For sure.
It's your fault.
You just made like some really a wall of intelligent points, and I'm not sure where to go from there.
All right. Well,
Those some great points.
I really just I want to see the Coliseum right now. I want to
I
see
think
some.
I want to disagree about your broad strokes thing.
Why disagree though? When you literally said you're on the same page as me, and I'm
When
not.
did I say
I
that?
need
I'm
to
not
I
know-
didn't say
pushing.
I'm on the same page as
And
you.
I'm not pushing back on the nuance. I totally agree.
I'm saying
like,
the movie is so specific. It
For
feels
sure.
the characters feel so specific. The world feels so specific. The fact that it's public school 173
Absolutely.
in Queens, New York
yeah, for sure.
in 1980.
I agree.
The
specificity,
the Trumps
baby.
are tangentially involved. The specificity, though, the specific is what gets at the universal, right? So what you're saying are broad strokes are thematic strokes. But you only get at those thematic strokes via specific characters,
Yeah, for sure.
their specific dilemmas.
I agree.
Okay,
We're on the same page.
we're on the same page.
On the same page.
Okay. Katerina, now, Gabe, I want to say, you and I, we had a couple different discussions on the car ride home yesterday.
Go
We
on.
had the one with Katerina in the car where she's dumping on the movie.
The good one. I did not dump on the movie.
You said
the
it was
movie
garbage.
Didn't
you said
hit.
it was.
I literally did not say that, you liar. The movie did not hit. The movie did not hit.
Yeah.
I would say I've seen this film twice now.
Okay.
First time I was weeping. just
You for
very
real,
cathartic
bro.
experience. This time around, I didn't enjoy it quite as much,
Mm.
but I think that's just because it's a fucking depressing movie,
Yeah.
there was less catharsis and more just like, oh my god, it feels like this albatross.
Ooh,
but-
good word.
Good word.
SAT word of the day.
Um,
Yeah.
but what are your issues, Kat, with this movie?
The movie
There's a plethora of them.
did not work for me as a trackable story. There is no
Okay, that's Kat, but okay.
Wait. But she's got to be able
No,
to talk.
keep going.
there
keep
is
going.
no solid conflict in this movie until an hour in, until the midpoint. There
But-
is no
okay.
conflict before it.
And what is that conflict?
The conflict is that Paul, the protagonist, needs to go to a different school, or he's going to get sent to a new school because he's misbehaving at the old one, or he's not living up to his potential. That's kind of a big thing later on. And he doesn't want to go, and he says he won't go, but his parents are going to make him go. And he thinks he'll go. He takes steps from there. He's like, all right, I'll go to my grandpa. But before that, things are just happening. Things just happen. Events just occur, and they have no weight on the story. I feel like the fact that the story is not streamlined is my biggest problem with it. Why are the Trumps there?
'Cause I
What do
think
they
that's
do
just,
to
I think
warrant
that's
screen
just a real
time?
detail from reality.
But that's fine.
Because
But
the
like,
Trumps were New York people. They were involved
okay.
in all sorts of things in New York, especially in the 80s.
okay.
So I think that was the suggestion. It's like the Trumps
alright.
were literally involved in this private school.
I feel like it didn't. That's okay.
Fucking Fred Trump,
Fred
motherfucker.
Trump. Oh, all right. I mean,
Wait, crazy cameo by the way from Jessica
Jessica
Chastain, who
Chastain.
plays Fred Trump's
Marla. Was it Marla?
I thought it was wife.
Yeah, it's
It's not, or it could be sister.
Marion?
no, it's his wife. It's but
It
she
was Marion or Marla or something.
yeah, sorry.
Marianne.
So John Deal plays Marianne Trump.
Okay.
Who is what? Donald Trump's mother?
I guess.
Yes, I think so.
So Fred Trump was
His father.
Donnie's dad?
Yeah.
Yes,
Jesus.
Donnie boy.
No wonder he turned out so fucked up.
I want.
Are you getting all
No
this
wonder
from
that
this
guy
movie,
sucks.
or do you have like outside opinions that lead you to hate
Getting-
Fred Trump?
I mean, I hate the fucking Trumps. Like, can
Oh,
they
gotcha,
go
gotcha.
away
But
already?
like Fred
Like,
is
I'm
like
so
an
tired of it.
unusual. I that's what I mean.
I'm
Can they
so,
go
like,
away?
Please, but this movie is evidence that like they'll never go away because
Not
they've been
true.
around since the fucking
Not
80s
true.
doing fucking
Lies.
weird
no
shit.
one gave
We'll
a
see how the
shit
next election
about
goes,
Fred Trump
just,
until
you know.
2016. Nationally, did anyone
what
know
you
who
see
this
is
man
that Fred
was?
Trump was
No.
probably an awful
Interesting.
father. He
No
completely-
one knew.
What?
Yeah.
Nobody knew who Fred Trump was until Donald Trump ran for
No,
president.
people did know who.
He
In
was
New
a
York,
big
people
real
knew who
estate
Fred
in
Trump
New
was.
York
developer.
is different. New York is different.
But
New
that's
York
what I'm
is
saying.
its own
This is
world.
that's the thing. The specificity of the movie. It's New York City,
Okay,
and
That's
Fred Trump
fine.
has a ton of bread. People know who he is.
That's fine.
And he's clearly like, it's not even like it's his school because he's bankrolling. He's clearly like, guy was Mr.
Yeah.
Monopoly of that school.
For
like,
sure. For sure.
And I think it's interesting. I don't agree
a
that there's
detail of the
nothing,
world.
there's no conflict. I think the conflict, here's the problem with this movie.
in the first hour,
To just
limit yourself.
play like, there is conflict from start to finish.
This is a lot.
It's cultural conflict, though. It's cultural conflict. It's
But
basically...
that's not how stories are told. The protagonist
But
needs
this
a conflict.
Jewish family lives in a world that's changing and that, like Anthony Hopkins says, they didn't like us then, they don't like us now.
Okay.
So
Anthony
that's conflict.
Hopkins
But
telling
I
a
agree,
story
it's
is
very
not
heady.
conflict.
It's very in the background. It's very like, okay, things are just happening. However, I think that's
Nebulous.
just how reality works. And I think that's your issue with it is like, is this really like a straight up movie?
No.
And we were trying to define what the movie is on the car ride home. We're like, is it a mood piece? Is it a character study? We kind of landed on mood piece,
Yes.
which is super fair because I feel you. Like, there's no streamlined approach to the plotting of this movie.
Yes.
To the story. It really is. It's atmospheric. It's cultural.
Yeah.
It's about the characters and them existing, trying to survive in a world that is changing in the background, and that it's a world that's changing in a way that's hard to comprehend.
I feel like this is where I want to give my disclaimer that,
Okay.
like, I didn't hate the movie, but I acknowledge, like, I noticed in, like, the first probably 20 minutes, this is not a movie for me. It's not my type of film.
Yeah.
And I'm very picky about film to begin with. And, like, it was, and I mean, like, the fact that it's a mood piece that doesn't have a really strong, you know, straightforward plot is fine. Like, I totally see the merit in that as art. I totally see why people would want to make that. I would not like to view it most of the time. I'm not the audience it was intended for.
Okay, here's what I would say. if the actors in this movie weren't so good, I wouldn't have
The movie
I wouldn't
would
have
fall
enjoyed
apart
it.
immediately.
Interesting.
'Cause
See,
that's
Dale,
what
that
makes-
flips
that's
a
what
lot
carries
on
the
it.
movie.
That flips a lot on its head for
'Cause
me.
Yeah.
I
terms
totally agree
of-
with that.
Like in
though.
terms of how you look at my opinion.
Yes, because
Ah.
I think hearing you discuss the film as a writer and director, you seem to put so much emphasis on the nuance that James Gray is bringing to it, but to hear that nuance only finds it's like
Footing on strong acting.
yeah
No, it's not only finding its footing on strong acting. There's a lot of craft to the directing in
Yeah.
particular.
No.
Can I
But-
make
but,
a hot
Hold on, I
take?
want to finish your
Get it.
point, and then Kat make your point.
Yeah. For the film to be self-actualized is
Okay.
to have a performance that moves you. If that doesn't happen, then it sounds like you're saying it does come short of what your expectations would be otherwise.
I feel like Anthony Hopkins is incredible in this movie, and I feel like he's a core of he's the movie's emotional core.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think there's
Totally.
maybe an inherent issue in the fact that like he dies 2/3 of the way through, because it's like
I think he'd serve his
it
purpose.
makes sense. It makes sense because this movie he's already dying. But to me, the emotional climax of the movie, for sure, not that the emotional climax technically is, if you're going to talking traditional structure, should come about 2/3 of the way through. But I almost feel like that was the high of the movie for me. The movie building up to the grandfather's passing that's a nice crescendo. That's a nice crescendo, perhaps.
Sure.
Everything after that feels a little more stiff. And I think that's maybe like because of Anthony Hopkins' absence.
Which
They
I think
can't
is
do without
purposeful.
it though. His
What?
death is what changes Paul. They can't do without his death and where it comes.
My issue, okay, I agree with you. My issue is that it already feels like on a second watch, what I realized, it already feels like shit is fucked up well before the grandfather dies.
But that's 'cause
And
you know
so
it's
there
coming.
doesn't feel like there's a marked full-blown shift after the grandfather's dead. It just feels like things were already kind of fucked up and it was just hard to articulate. And the
Yeah, I kinda agree
grandfather's
with that.
death is a container for like a way of explaining why things are fucked up, which is basically that the one guy in the family who looks at the world in a way that's redeeming, and despite the struggle in his life, and almost like because of the struggles he's had in his life and his family has had, like he looks at life as beautiful, as something to be lived,
Yeah.
like as something to live with your family. Like he's a man full of love, and then his passing is like, okay, what? His passing feels so dire that it's like, wait, what is the meaning of life now?
What
Yeah.
are we now?
Like he's that powerful of a figure, for that formidable of a figure. It's like he dies, you're like, what is the point of existing anymore? Like this man was such a what?
What?
No, what you just said to me
Yeah.
moved me like immeasurably. It
Yes.
really struck a chord with me,
Yeah, 'cause
like
that's
due
to
to
me, like-
personal experience.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen on screen. If you
No,
wrote
no,
me
no,
that
I'm not
movie
saying
and
it- I'm
filmed me
not
that
saying-
movie, I would be in tears. I would be broken down in the theater. That shit would
Okay.
sting.
That's interesting.
That did not happen on screen.
The
though.
way I watch movies is I'm watching the Colin Dale movie on top of the movie.
So you're doing work for them.
Yeah.
You're doing unpaid labor to like
And I
have an
know when
emotional
a movie
response
like
to
is
it.
so good that actually I don't even need the Colin Dale version on top.
Yes.
But like this is a movie where I put my little version
Yeah.
on top, and that makes it like better. And I think I hear what you're saying. The movie has a little bit of unfulfilled potential in the sense that like I need to
wasn't it.
bridge the gaps a little bit for
But
the
that's-
movie, like
yeah.
on the movie's behalf. I don't know, like
I don't think that's I think that's a gulf that you just filled. I mean, what you just said to me seriously moved me. I was like, wow, and I've felt that. I've lived it. It's that's a whole TV show.
I think
first
it's
of all.
in there, but the reason it's in there is I think it's in the writing, but I think it's in Anthony Hopkins'
I don't think
performance.
it's in the writing. I think Anthony Hopkins' performance does give some of that, especially that last scene. The only thing that really, really touched me was Anthony Hopkins on the bed after he's departed, kind of talking to Paul about like, you tried, you failed, but now that moved me. That touched me.
You know what
Nothing else.
You know what I didn't like about that part of the movie where Paul has like a hallucination or a vision of his grandfather
He's
saying that to him.
thinking.
That version of the character feels angry and worn down in a way that the living character didn't feel.
Do you really feel that? I didn't get that.
He feels like more like that dead, like the ghost version of. And it's interesting. James Gray on the podcast I listened to described this story as a ghost story.
No, it's not.
Kind of interesting. Whatever.
Oh God.
Let's just assume that it is, because I mean, literally, a ghost appears at the end.
A ghost.
A ghost of Anthony Hopkins,
or a memory.
Okay, whatever. Same thing. This is the same thing. But that version of the character, you know, Grandpa Rabinowitz, feels like really cynical in a way that the living character didn't feel. And I was like, what does that mean? Is that intentional?
The child is impressing what he's learned of the world onto his new view of his grandfather.
Oh, wow. That's really deep. So,
Kat, can you go further with that?
Yeah.
So if it's a memory coming from Paul's mind, it's not going to be an honest-to-God like vision of the grandfather. It's going to be the way that you color memories are fragile. They are like, we have to patch them up in order to make things make sense in our mind. We impress opinions upon them. Paul's view of the world has changed because of what went down with Johnny.
And so this version of...
He's plastering the grandfather with what he's learned.
It's a really great point, Kat.
Thank you. Thanks, bud.
That's a really great point. And I think isn't that kind of an... Okay, so now I'm feeling like then the Anthony Hopkins performance in it and the writing in that scene feels fully intentional, I think, based on what you're saying. But isn't that an artful thing? Isn't that an artful scene? Isn't that something
I like that scene.
I don't think that the question is whether the film has art to it. It's just, does it have mass appeal? Does it feel personal to some people? You know, like, it sounds like in the way you like to direct and write films, you have accessed this story at least once in a very cathartic manner.
Yeah.
The way Kat writes and envisions stories, it sounds like it's not as accessible.
No.
For me, I swing somewhere in the middle where, like, sometimes, like, I was watching that movie and I was like, what the fuck is going on right now? And other times I was watching it and I was like, man, this really is life. And like we wait for something, but nothing happens. Yeah. And then everything happens.
I got that moment from some of like the slice of life family stuff where I was like, it made me a little nostalgic. So okay, I feel like this is also important point of reference.
I like the dumpling scene a lot.
My family is from Queens, New York. My whole family, my parents grew up like 2 blocks apart. It's a cute ass story. My whole family is from this area. I wouldn't be surprised if my mom attended this PS. So. Like, there are moments where, like, the structure of this house looks like my grandparents' house. And, like, I'm watching all these family members argue, but it's beautiful. And, like, I missed it. But, like, I missed my life. Like, it wasn't the movie that I was, like, so engaged in the world that I'm, like, damn, you know? And sometimes I got that from The Sopranos. Like, not to be, like, totally, like, that's a unattainable goal. Like, sometimes The Sopranos had, like, such a specificity to it that, like, somebody would tell a joke that I've heard before. And I'm like, I'm nostalgic for Paulie Walnuts, you know what I mean? Like, and the guy's dead, and that makes me sad that actor is dead. I didn't get that from this movie. Like, I had moments where, like, it reminded me of my life, but... So, you made a great comment when we were leaving the theater where I said, like, it was a really personal story, so it didn't move me. And you're like, how could it not move you? That's what moved me, is that it was so personal. And I thought more on it, and I'm like, the problem is that when you're telling, like, such a personal story about, like, trial for your family, like, I found myself comparing my trial and, like, comparing, like, something I went through growing up and, like, kind of, like, throwing down the worst cards, you know what I mean? And so it's like, I felt like that was because the movie didn't work. I feel like if it had been done in a different way, it would have worked.
Okay, so for me, that's interesting. This might get at the root of, like, differences in the way you and I ingest, like, art. Like, for example, the example I always use is, like, Kendrick Lamar. Do you like Kendrick Lamar?
I love Kendrick.
Yeah, so I'm a big hip-hop head. I like Kendrick Lamar's music a lot. However, there's not very little in his music that I go, damn, that really reminds me of
Yes, his
the
stories
time.
have no bearing
Right, the
on
stories
me.
are so specific to his experience and to other experiences
agree.
of people, like, he's gathered from people he knows, that I can't relate to it.
Yeah.
But I still find it beautiful.
Yes.
And I'm like, that's an interesting thing that I really can't relate to the specifics of it, but I still find it beautiful.
Totally agree.
And I think in this movie, there's nothing about it. Well, that's not true. There's aspects of it that I am able to insert my own personal experience into, but there's a lot that I'm not. And I still find it beautiful.
Do you think that's a version of, like, the Uncanny Valley, where you're connecting?
Explain that.
Are you familiar with the Uncanny Valley?
No.
So the Uncanny Valley, I'm going to try to make this quick, is
I think it's used in multiple circumstances, but most presently in like culture science, it's used for
Robots.
it's used for robots and the way at which we cosmetically create them. So you've got R2D2, which is a cute little robot, right? You know it's a robot. It looks like a robot. You accept it as a robot. But the more and more it becomes an android, the more it's like, yeah, robot, robot, robot. It starts to look human-like C-3PO, or like, we'll run with C-3PO. But then there's a massive gap where it looks human, but its gaze is just off, the color of its skin is just off, and you completely reject it.
Makes you
And so
uncomfortable.
that gap is what needs to be bridged, in order to get us to a place where, like, robots, they are, you can't tell the difference between one from the human, right? And so the reason I bring up this uncanny valley is because the situation you're talking about is that movie, this particular... Now I'm losing my train of thought. You were talking about...
The specifics of the story.
Feeling
like
personal, right?
Yes.
So it gets personal, it gets personal, it gets personal. But if it gets too detailed, sometimes there's a huge gap where, like, we
Yeah.
almost reject it because it's like there's almost too many details, even with the Kendrick Lamar stuff.
That's a tough. I understand. Now I understand how it's applicable.
Yeah.
We'll
Here,
be
hold
right
this real
back.
quick, Ed.
Movie Addicts podcast. We're talking Armageddon time.
Y'all, can I go pee?
Oh yeah, you want to take a break? Let's take a 5. Let's take 5 then. 5. All right, we'll be back. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Are we back with Movie Addicts podcast?
Almost.
Almost.
Okay, you can put your little thing on the computer. Your snack next to the timer.
I'm not sure what we're on here. It's unprofessional.
I chew all the time on air.
We are professional.
Dude, my slippers will never smell right again.
What you doing?
I wash them. I do all sorts of shit, and they always smell a little weird.
Great. This is exactly
We're
what
back,
we need to
huh?
know. We're back.
Okay. That's okay. I thought we weren't back. You said we weren't.
We're back. So, okay, let me just try to make my point with the Uncanny Valley so we don't get wrapped up in science and bullshit. And
Gabe's like
confusing
Elon Musk over here
tangential-
right now. Hey, Elon, should we bring him on?
Yeah, Elon, why
He's
don't you
been
just come
sitting
here
in the
real quick?
wings. I mean,
Here's
let's just
my
bring him on.
bucks. Get me a check.
Yeah, literally. He's like, guys, I just, you're going to have to pay $8 for that blue check for Movie Addicts. Are you willing? And we're going to be like, we don't want to go on Twitter.
Shut the fuck up, Elon.
Sorry.
Elon Musk.
Elon, we don't need you. We
he
love
was
you. We don't need
associating
you.
himself with one of the worst inventions to ever plague
You
humanity.
don't like
But
Twitter?
I think it's one of the worst things to ever happen to humans. Honestly.
I did not give a shit at all until I heard Jack Dorsey say that it's the closest thing we have to a global consciousness.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, a
Is
global
it?
consciousness based on what, though?
Based
Like-
on everybody having a voice,
I'm back to not giving
I
a
think
shit at all.
if the global consciousness were just the amygdala,
Just the amygdala?
But do you really think a
like
global
rooted in
consciousness
fear
could be?
and
Oh, interesting. I see what you're
adrenaline
saying.
response and
Oh, that's actually kind of cool.
survival
Ooh,
response and
look at him.
Dale's a smart guy too. He
was
says
really
intellectual
good.
things sometimes.
that was
Shit.
I'm
Dale,
yeah,
you got him?
Shit,
I'm a genius. Hey, it's a movie. No,
Okay,
it's a movie Addicts podcast. All right,
so
talk about the Kelly. Elon,
yeah,
thank
yeah,
you so much for coming on.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that was
very
pretty
much.
good, dude.
Yeah.
Well, that was pretty good. Okay,
Trying,
thank
yeah.
you so much for coming on. Explain to us this uncanny valley.
Yes, of course. Yes.
That's pretty good, Elon. Honestly.
So, regarding the Uncanny Valley, the long story short is it sounds like Kat and Dale have related differently to the way details are portrayed in this story.
Mhm.
And what I mean to say is every filmmaker, writer, director, etc. has a choice when they're telling a story. And that choice is how many details am I going to include in order to create a world that the audience can feel immersed in. And it sounds like sometimes there are so many details included that you empathize, you sympathize, you feel included. This feels like I'm a part of this. And then holy shit, there's so many fucking details. This is not my life. This is somebody else's life.
This is a whole movie.
And that's where like that uncanny valley I think happens, where it's like
I'm watching something that has nothing to do with me.
I did feel
I'm
that.
gonna use another hip hop example to explain
And
bring
then
home the uncanny valley.
What
You ready?
breaks that gap, I think, what bridges that gap
Yeah.
is so many details overload that it's not relatable to me, that there might be just a touch more details that suddenly it's too personal. And too personal doesn't have to be like capital
Yeah.
TOO uncomfortable, but to the degree of like very few people will actually relate to this story, you know?
Okay.
But
Interesting.
I did not have that feeling. I did feel there were characters in the story, there were shifts in the plot that I did feel like this is relatable. It was really more of a pacing thing that if I felt at all alienated from like the literal movie watching experience, it was mostly just a pacing thing where I was like, oh yeah, I'm watching a movie because I'm not too sure.
Bless you.
I just had to take that in.
Sorry.
That was nice.
That was cathartic.
God bless you.
As
Joe.
cathartic as Armageddon time.
God bless you.
Cathartic.
Okay.
God, dude,
Your uncanny valley.
for a
What?
second, I thought I was gonna look up. There was gonna be a hole behind you, and I was gonna.
I hop into the multiverse. It would be so funny if, like, all this stuff that I talk about Marvel, like, I just get like wrapped into it. Like, how would that happen? Anyway, that's just we don't
That
even
would
need to
be the
think about
most logical step life could take.
Absolutely.
That's the most.
Either option
It's
A.
so interesting to think about. Like, how would I get there
option,
from where I stand now?
I'm telling you right now. Option A.
Yeah.
We're living in a comic book right now, and you're like the next Doctor Strange, where like your movie career goes to shit, and like somebody pulls you out of the gutter, and he's teaching you magic, and you become like some superhero, and that's how you buy into it. Option
Okay.
B, which I think is much more likely,
Okay.
is Annika is gonna make you watch all 22 films,
Yes.
and you're gonna fall in love. You're gonna fall in love with the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Annika getting a shout out. Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Marvel Cinematic Universe. Dale's gonna
Um,
understand.
Yeah. I think that's
Is that possible? That if somebody
Um,
actually got you to sit down and watch the MCU, you might actually want to watch other films besides Black Panther. Which, by the way, we're gonna watch it next week.
I'm not gonna say it's.
Are we watching
yeah,
Black Panther?
Panther's coming
I can't
out.
wait. You're welcome to come. It's gonna be
Black
so much
Panther's
fun.
popping right now. We got to get on that. We got to
Dude,
hop
it
on that
really
train.
is. Everybody at my restaurant the other night was like, "Yeah, we're going to Black Panther." I'm like, "Ah," and
It's
didn't
popping,
it bang
it's
out
popping.
one?
A lot of people are at the theater.
160 million this weekend.
Wow.
Oh wow.
I think,
awesome.
or at least
We'd have to
Thursday
look
to
that up.
Sunday. So
There will be a Hollywood
Nuts.
Reporter article I'll get in my email inbox tomorrow. Like,
yeah.
so
yeah, Dale's gonna sneeze himself into the multiverse.
yeah. That's so interesting. I don't know how I would get there. Back to the uncanny valley thing, 'cause I think it's interesting.
Yeah,
I
I'm gonna have
hear
some
what you're
chips while I'm
saying.
here.
Would you say that was your?
Sorry, Dale.
Jesus.
Just-
Would you
no,
say
no,
that
go
was-
ahead. Go ahead.
Would you say that? Kat,
I'm done,
would you
I'm
say
done.
that was your experience?
Yeah, kind of.
Would you say that was your experience watching the movie? Is what Gabe's describing? Is like, wow, this feels almost too specific that I can't insert myself anywhere.
Yes and no. Like, I watch plenty of movies. I've like lived and loved a lot of movies in which have nothing to do with me and never ever will. I mean, my favorite movies are like that. Some of my favorite movies are about an old man, a tech genius. Like,
What movie are you referencing?
I feel like it's more funny
Are
if
you
you
referencing
don't
Back
Elon
to the
know.
Musk the
Future?
movie.
No.
Oh, I love Back to the Future. You're talking
No.
about. Please just say.
That's
Just say
like-
yes.
An old man,
No.
a tech genius.
No, these are two different movies.
What movies?
Mar-
One is an
Marty,
old
stop.
man and one is a tech genius.
Old Man the movie?
What the fuck
No,
are you talking
it follows
about?
an old man.
What
Stop.
movies?
She's talking about Rick and Morty.
No, I'm not. That's not a movie.
So then tell us what
It's
you're
Up
talking about.
And The Social
Oh,
Network.
I love.
Oh, I love the
Aw,
Social
everyone
Network.
melts.
Wait,
Aw.
Social Network's one of my
Fuck
favorite
you,
movies.
The
yeah.
Social Network is my favorite movie, so suck it.
I mean, like it's my top 10. I don't have a,
Nux.
It's
Let's
one.
exchange some Nux.
I thought let's go Nux. Come on, Kat. Stop being a hater.
That actually
All
kinda
right, you're never invited back to the Movie Addicts podcast. You're banned from all the
Sure.
dinners.
The
that we're
Social
gonna
Network
have.
is the greatest movie ever made.
I watched it for
it's
the
a great
first time
movie.
in the last year, and I was impressed.
You had never seen
Not
it?
impressed.
Ever.
That movie has
Social Network
aged.
changed the course of my life.
Really?
Yeah.
That movie has aged so fucking well. It's literally nuts.
Uncomfortably
Which is
well.
weird because it came out and it was already
Dave Fincher
the
is an
best thing
actual
ever.
genius.
You think Jesse Eisenberg will be like, Dave, you want to do a sequel?
if they did a sequel, I would beg And
I wouldn't
please,
doubt
would
if
say,
they
please
do.
let me get. I'll write if I have to write one line of dialogue for the script.
If there's any,
Dave.
if
Dave.
does Aaron Sorkin ever write sequels? Because if there
I
was a
don't
sequel
think
to be
so. I don't
written,
think he
if there
would.
was a
That's a really
sequel
good
to be
point.
written,
They
Oh my
can't
God.
do it
I'm-
without every core component.
I'm calling. Get me.
No,
done.
fuck
Give me
that.
one pass at the
Everyone needs
script.
to show up. I'm talking
Well, not
Trent Reznor. I'm talking
everybody.
the guy who did the lighting. I'm talking everybody.
yeah, but not Justin
No.
Timberlake. He doesn't have to come back.
Yes, he does.
For what?
He
He's-
was great in that movie. First
yes,
of all,
but he's not going to be around for the next plot.
Who cares?
The next plot-
Then
Might
don't
be,
make the
though.
movie. Don't
It'd be
make the movie.
interesting to weave him in.
No,
You know, Andrew Garfield wouldn't even be around for the next plot.
No,
then.
they
so what would
all-
the point be?
I feel
because we're watching a different. Okay, so here's the thing: the first film is about the rise of.
It's gonna be a bad sequel unless every single person is back on board.
Kat, this is what I'm talking about fluidity.
It's gonna be a bad
You're
sequel if
being
I'm
too,
not
you're being,
attached.
No,
in
I'm not.
order
I'm
for a
not.
sequel to succeed regarding the Social Network, it would have to be probably like a next big shift in the relationship of
Who and who?
Zuck versus World.
it. Would yes, it
That
really.
versus
I
World
think it
could be
really would be
interesting.
about like the
It wouldn't be
privacy
as good.
concerns from like 2018.
It wouldn't be as good.
I think the Social Network should probably be left alone. In
Thank
reality,
you.
I don't think it should be touched.
Lord,
It is
you're my
such
prayer.
David Fincher is an actual genius.
Yes, he is.
Like the fact that he thought like we got to do this movie, because it's so rare that a movie trying to capture history as it's happening. It's so rare
Yeah.
that kind of movie works, and that movie works. It works up, down, sideways, frontwards, back. Like it
In every
it
way.
totally fucking works because it's not about history as it existed. It's about history as it's existing.
Yeah.
And as it will exist 10 years from now and then 20.
But really,
It's
what
like
makes
about-
that
it's
movie
fucking
work
crazy.
is that it's a movie about friendship.
Yes.
Plain the end. I
Good
mean,
call. That's a great call.
It
of
is.
course.
It's about
Have you guys
friendship,
ever
it's
heard
about
J.J.
fracturing.
Abrams' TED Talk about how he gets up there and there's like a lot of people want to rip off E.T. and they do, and they don't make good movies. And why is that? He's like, they rip off the wrong part of E.T. They think it's about aliens, and it's not. E.T. is
No.
about divorce. The core of that movie is
I was
about.
not expecting you to say divorce.
That's
but
what J.J. Abrams said. It's not my quote. But he's like, it's a movie about divorce. And The Social Network is a movie about friendship.
Let's get J.J. Abrams on the phone now.
I want to
See if
step out on a limb
JJ?
though, and
No, I'm kidding. Sorry, Kat. No, Kat, that was a good point. I'm sorry.
Thank
I was
you.
trying to make a
Thanks,
dumb
Dave.
joke.
no,
Didn't
no, no.
work.
What did JJ say? Go ahead. JJ's on the phone. JJ calls you up. He's
Hold
like,
on,
hey,
let me get my ring. I'll get
yeah, yeah. E22. We're doing a
It's
35.
so small.
E.T.
Hold on, it's ringing. It's ringing.
Yeah, yeah.
Getting voicemail?
Tell him I said
Say-
hi. Tell him I said hi.
It's saying the number. Maybe like change his number.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe
it's
he had a
got me
stalker
dialed tone. Yeah.
named
Named me.
I'm just saying there might be a lot of Abrams out there. I'm just saying.
What?
Abrams.
I'm just saying there's might be a lot of Abrams out there.
Yeah. Huh.
So I am curious though that like J.J. Abrams, la-di-da, trying to rip off. You can't because divorce. But like he made Super 8, didn't he? And I thought Super 8 was kind of doo-doo caca. Like I remember
Yeah.
watching it.
Kettle, black.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
like,
probably.
yeah, and you know what I will say? Like,
movie's
I do
garbage.
remember being in middle school, high school,
The movie's not
and
good.
loving the film.
Yes.
But I remember watching it on second viewing and being like, everybody's saying this movie's E.T. and it's not.
Yeah.
But it also
Who said that movie's E.T.?
there's a alien. The kids are trying to figure out where the alien is. All right, it's like trapped
I don't see
Um,
any link between that movie and E.T.
at all.
I mean,
When
I
it
see,
came
I
out,
see a
people
link
were
and that
saying
it's a
it was the
Spielberg
next
ripoff.
E.T..
That's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
only link I see.
I
Yeah.
remember when it came out that people were saying that though.
Oh wait, this conversation is totally all over the
Pivoting.
place because E.T. is done by Spielberg.
Yeah.
And my point I was trying to make is like he made one film and the other, but J.J. Abrams didn't make E.T.
But he made Super 8, did he not?
He did. I was coming from a place where if he made both of them,
Oh yeah.
The reality is like
but Super 8, I just didn't. I'd have to. You know what? I'd probably watch it right now and I probably would enjoy it because if I allow it to be what it is, it's a
Yeah.
good time. And boy, does Elle Fanning crush it.
Oh,
She
she's
is.
the best.
She's so
Elle Fanning's
good.
in that shit.
She's so
Yeah.
good. When
Totally
she's a little
forgot about
girl.
Yeah, she's really good.
young-
When I was little, I
Young
was
Elle
crushing on
Fanning.
her.
She's
Yeah.
great. She's
You
great. Great
crushed
actor.
on her? She is a fantastic
Yeah.
actress.
Elle, if I really, I'd love to work with you. Just
I'm just saying, if you have
Have
time
my
to take
people
away
call you
from
up
the
my
TV
phone.
show, The Great,
What?
she's doing The Great. If you just want to take some time off for a couple months, do a project with us.
no, she's great.
I think
She's
if you want to
great.
work with
Speaking
Elle
of-
Fanning, you got to get into Hulu. I think that she's got like a deal with Hulu or something.
Mm.
She was in The Girl from Plainville too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love stuff on Hulu. So
Hulu's great.
anyway, back to Armageddon.
Not to mention, don't forget to
time.
like, subscribe, Movie Addicts Podcast.
Yeah, this is a great point to right
It's
in the
a
middle, right at
hour
the
and-
142 mark.
Yeah,
is
hour and
when
42
people are
minutes.
gonna-
You guys are definitely going to hear this, and we're counting on you to boost our subscription.
No one's listening.
Please.
Definitely. No one's listening.
Matt Havey's listening. Matt Havey.
Davies
All right,
listening.
this
Tell
is
your
great.
friends.
You know how you said that this movie, without the phenomenal performances by all the actors, which I second, it doesn't work. This movie,
I don't know that that's. You guys have paraphrased.
Let her
what I've
finish.
said
Let her
into-
finish.
Okay.
that's what you said.
We need like a talking
No ifs,
stick
ands,
because
or
you
buts.
guys are like kicking the shit out of each other right now.
No, this is pretty tame compared to yesterday.
This movie, it is tame. This movie, without the phenomenal performances, like left there to like hold it up, is Boyhood.
Cut it out with that, Cat.
It's
Cat, we're not
Boyhood.
doing. We're not doing.
Kat,
This
why don't
movie
you
with bad
break that
acting
down? Because
is Boyhood.
I'm starting to
Actually,
bristle right
Kat-
now. I'm starting
Kat,
to bristle a little bit.
You're fired from the Movie Addicts podcast. That was a
I'm not getting
crazy
paid.
take.
Hold on,
It was
hold
not
on.
crazy at all.
I
It's
need,
so
I need
true.
you,
It makes
I
you
need
uncomfortable.
I
You're-
need you to tell me why.
Because Boyhood is a movie about nothing that's pivoted with, or sorry, punctuated with random details from somebody's life
Boyhood's a good.
that somebody thought was important because they lived it. Boyhood is trash.
Oh my god.
Boyhood made me
Wow.
lose faith in the Oscars. I stopped watching award shows after that movie got nominated. Boyhood is bad.
You really
That's
don't think
so
there's
gimmicky.
any?
That's the only thing that makes that a movie that anybody watched outside of their mother's living room.
You don't think there's any beauty to like the?
I think I own Boyhood. I think I owned it on my.
any
Apple
beauty to
library.
like the concept of Boyhood?
The concept is fine, but it's not a good movie.
You don't think so?
It's not a good movie. You think so? What's the story?
I remember
Who's
enjoying
acting in it?
The story
They're
is
growing
about
up and the
growing
family's
up.
falling apart, and
It's not the. But okay, that's fine. That's fine. That is a story.
I will say,
it's
like,
a bad story. It's bad acting. It's bad writing. You're
Kat,
really
I
going to
don't
tell
know
me that
how
the
we got
writing
here.
doesn't make you cringe because it's the same thing.
I'd have to
It's
watch
the same
it.
thing. What is Armageddon Time a story of?
I don't see the link. Cat,
Say it.
between,
What is
I don't
Armageddon Time a story of? It's a story about growing up and families growing apart.
They're not even comparable movies. I don't even understand how
They're
you're
not
linking
comparable
the two.
because they're on different scales. Because Boyhood has really bad acting, but is also kind of a story about nothing. And Armageddon
does
Time
not
has
have
good
really
acting,
bad acting.
but is also
Okay,
a story
okay.
about nothing.
Acting.
Cat just loaded
What
up the
you're-
Gatling gun and just like
What,
sprayed
Cat,
without.
Cat. I
Thanks,
just.
Cat. I
You
feel
know it's
very
true.
safe right now.
a
Who's he?
perf-
Havey?
a per- if
Don't
a-
you agree, Havey?
If a performance serves what the movie is, it's not bad. It's not a bad performance, right? So if I think all the performances in Boyhood serve what that movie is.
No, they don't. Stop with your art school bullshit. They're bad actors because
Damn,
they're
Dan.
little kids. I'm
You've
sorry. I'm
become
sure
one
you've
of
grown a
them, Dan.
lot. They're little kids.
I
They're
can't
not
even- I
everybody
don't
has
even know
it when
how
they're
we got
5.
here.
It's fine. I wouldn't have. They weren't good actors. This, and again, even at 11, it's hard to convince. Like, you don't have the rich emotional life experience to tap on. This young man, sorry, what's his name? Whoever played Paul,
Oh, well,
is really talented. Repeta?
Banks.
Banks.
Repeta.
Thanks.
Banks is an anomaly in a way that I feel like Millie Bobby Brown in Stranger Things when
Or
was an
Leo
anomaly.
DiCaprio.
Sure, I really honestly haven't seen him act
With
as a little
eating
boy.
Gilbert Grape. He's
I didn't
beautiful.
see it.
He does an awesome
Well,
job.
But
he was
also
not-
he's a
he was
little
not
older. He
child.
was not a
He wasn't really a
child.
child
He was
actor.
11 or 12, wasn't he?
No, he was like 16.
Nah, he was 16, 17.
Okay.
And like when you're a teenager, like,
You know
give
who
you
was
the
a
pass to
child
see some
actor?
light.
Christian Bale.
True.
Yeah, was he
And
in
he was great.
Empire of the Rising Sun or
Yeah.
something? This kid is great. He holds the camera in like, I mean, either he is like a great actor or that director is the best director to ever
James
live.
Gray is a great director.
But he's not the best director to be directing that kid to reach those lengths. He's a good actor, is what I'm saying. In
I
Boyhood,
think the
they're just
directing is
regular
solid and
kids.
brings out part of the performance, but
I think the directing was good, but you know, I wouldn't take it away from the young man.
I think he's good. I think he's good.
I thought he was really great. I
Yeah,
would say he was great.
I think he's great.
I'll say this much. I think it's easy for a young actor to be distracting for the audience.
Yes.
And not once did I feel that he
No.
was... At any moment that I felt he wasn't believable, my mind accepted it as, like... This is what I spoke about yesterday.
Young awkwardness.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think a lot of young adults, if not children, they're taking on personality traits from their parents, from their
Yeah.
peers, and because they're, we'll say, so malleable, whoever they are with, I think they take on a role. We do this as adults, but I think we find a way to have more of a solidified
unified version of that.
It's code switching in adults.
Yes. And so for children, I think the code switching is way
It's cringy. You watch it happen in real time.
Yeah, and so seeing this, you could argue that there were times where it's like, is he bad acting? What the heck's going on? But my mind always interpreted it as, oh, so that's how he is with teachers?
Yeah.
Oh, that's how he is with best friends. That's how he is with parents. And that's actually why I thought we had a great director, because the director was giving him context. Otherwise, I don't know if the actor would have been able to translate that, that, not quite the right word, but that vicious of a shift. I was really impressed. 1 second, he's behaving one way with his friends. The next second, he's behaving in front of the teacher. The next second, he's with his mom in the stairwell. And it's really weird how, once in one part of the movie, he's behaved child with mom, and the next moment, he's deflecting kid, I'm going to make fun of this situation. There was so much nuance to that kid's performance that, as an actor, I cannot overlook it all.
He's really, really great.
It's really cool.
He's really great.
Yeah.
Which is weird because, I mean, this is just a guess, but I got a feeling walking out of that theater that I would never see him in anything ever again.
Really?
I swear. I mean, I guess I don't typically
I
look at a
wouldn't say
child
that.
actor, but
Cut to,
seriously.
all these
Yeah.
agents at William Morris.
You never know.
We're getting them in the next fucking...
Imagine,
Pops
but
in
you
the next
never
fucking
know.
Batman
Some
movie or
people
something.
some kids are I hated that. I never want to do that again. You know what I mean? Some great little kids.
Well, you'd have to
don't
look at
wanna
this
act
kid's
anymore.
credentials, but I would never...
No, it's a total feeling, but I just got that feeling.
I will say, just to bring it back a couple beats back to the Boyhood comparison, Kat, it sounds like Boyhood left you wanting more.
Yeah, a lot.
A lot. And it felt like, to you, whether or not it was lacking craft, it felt like it lacked purpose.
Boyhood felt to me like The Emperor Has No Clothes, where everybody was running this is the most beautiful movie. This is changing cinematic history. I'm like, okay, I get that it's a cool gimmick, but it's not a good movie, and you're all acting like it is.
Okay.
The dialogue was,
So then to bring it back
God.
to Armageddon Time,
yes.
is there something in this film that feels Emperor's No Clothes?
No, because nobody is losing their shit over it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And Colin said, it was it moved him. He's going to remember it in a year. And that's fine. Every movie can do that to you. The Room does that for somebody. You know what I mean? Every movie, that is kind of the beauty of it. It's there's one person on Earth that needed to watch it at this point in time. And that's totally fair. And I'm not saying it was a bad movie. I'm just saying that, the elements of it that I felt like the director wanted to work for me didn't work for me. That's what I'm saying.
Dale? Were there elements that really spoke to you personally? If you want to open up with us a little bit.
Bare your soul, please.
Gabe's like Oprah Winfrey right now.
Rip your ribs open and let your soul escape.
What I think what kills me was that all the adults except for Grandpa Rabinowitz were so wrapped up in things that don't matter. And Grandpa Rabinowitz knows that life is short.
Yeah. He's also
It's
the
finite.
oldest.
And while I'm here, I'm going to tell people that I love them and that I appreciate them, and I'm going to show them. I'm not just going to tell them that. I'm going to show them.
On his own birthday, he gives someone else a gift.
Yes. And that kind of... The fact that is something that is so rare that it's beautiful is there's something sad about that to me.
Yeah.
And I think these parents are living... These parents are, played by brilliantly, in my opinion, by Anne Hathaway. I love Anne Hathaway in this movie, and Jeremy Strong. These two parents, the Graffs, to the extent that I thought it was interesting, the detail that their name is actually Graz or Stein, but they go by Graff. That's really interesting to me because it says so much, right? Because it says we live in a world where we feel unstable, unsafe.
Unseen.
We have to conceal who we really are, and we have to just keep climbing. And
just the name change, or what the name was changed to? As
well,
in
their
a graft
name
would
was
be an
a
implant.
Jewish name, and they had to change it to something that just sounds ambiguous and American, basically. And that just means that they have to conceal
Their
a
Jewish
really
heritage.
important part of their heritage, their identity, in order to succeed, in order to survive, really. And I think it's that's what got to me in this movie, is that these parents are so concerned about things that don't really fucking matter. Paul would have been fine if he had stayed at the public school. He would have been fine. And
They thought he was mentally challenged.
That is true. That is true. I think James Gray does a good job writing in stuff that makes you makes you understand every character's choices.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's not placing a value judgment on anyone's choices per se. But I hear what you're saying, but I think they're just worried about Paul. There's just this whole theme in there of like, I've talked to you about this, but the adults creating the worlds the kids live in, the world the kids live in. And the world of the adults is very bleak. And so the world the kids have to live in is very bleak as well. And it's all about preparing yourself for the future. It's all about preparing yourself to be a business. What is that, like Fred Trump say, like business leaders and politicians?
Everything.
Fred Trump never mentions being a teacher, being an artist.
Which, to be fair, like there is a class. There is a class in this world, country, that like they don't identify with the.
They put no value on those professions, which you honestly see in the movie. I mean, I felt for Turkey in the beginning with this class that treated him like shit. Come on, like
Turkey sucks though.
Okay, but like imagine you got 40 kids in a classroom and you're with them all day. He was leading them through gym. There is no break for this man. It's an exhausting job. You think he's getting paid well? Fuck no. He's there because he must like kids.
Well, I hear that, and that's what I'm saying. Is I don't think James Gray places judgments, too many crazy judgments on the characters. But yeah,
my point being that it's in the movie that like teachers are really underappreciated. Nothing's gonna change. I mean, Breaking Bad is about that too. It's about the shit of life of a teacher. So yeah, and like artists, I think that's what kind of pricks you, especially is it's totally undervalued in this movie.
Yeah, I know. I hear what you're saying. I think
I think all that checks out. I think just off the top of my head, it does make me feel that like this film, I think it's easy to talk about the election before Reagan became a thing. It's easy to talk about the way, maybe there was like a little bit of like cops and, race relations and things of that, just in that little moment towards the end of the film.
It's like kind of in there, yeah.
It's kind of. But I think one thing that's not in your face, but in some ways is in your face for the entire film in regards to the teacher thing, is when they started, busing children from African-American neighborhoods into not African-American neighborhoods.
Yeah, and it was a point of contention in New York.
It was, and I've heard about this.
In Boston too.
Yeah, I've heard about these things probably from like people in our parents' generation, where it was a real thing, and it was confusing having these cultures like intersect, and the fact that like the parents who are of Jewish descent are trying to reconcile the fact that like everybody needs to have a voice and a seat at the table, but also like we really want our son to succeed in this public school's not cracking it. And part of the reason that the public school, they think, I don't think, but they think, is because now they have more students.
Yeah.
Now the teachers are overwhelmed. Now our kid's not getting attention. Now our kid's hanging out with another kid that they think might not be a good influence. And that's like, it's really sad that this is all part of the like cultural, what would you call it? It's really sad. We call it a melting pot to include everybody, but you could also make the argument that like in some ways it's a boiling pot, and we're gonna see who like gets boiled. What layer of water is going to get boiled out first? And it's really sad to see Johnny, who had so much fucking potential. For those of you who haven't seen the film, one of Paul's best friend in the film is a young black boy who is nothing but excited to like join the ranks of NASA. Not even necessarily as an astronaut.
He's also like a very bright presence at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
He's also like emotionally smart. Like there's times where, he closes himself off, but he clearly knows how to like deal with the way Paul feels. He knows how to like say certain truths when necessary. He I don't know, he just seems like one of the like most emotionally open, smart, sweet characters in the film, and he gets the worst deal out of everybody. Like family members die, and we don't all get to go to the school we want, but like he has no parents. The federal government's going to take his grandmother away from him, and he's going to get stuck in the foster care. and he chooses no foster care, and then ends up in prison. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just like it's trash. You know. I don't know why I felt it necessary here.
We'll be back. Movie Addicts podcast. We'll be right back. Oh, I'm good, thank you. Actually, I do want one. Oh, we're back. It's the Movie Addicts podcast. Give me a Scooby snack. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Kat. Yeah, you know, I didn't mean to, like, you know, make it too heavy or, like...
Movie's heavy.
Yeah, you know, the movie really does deal with a lot of themes, and I do think it's important to just highlight this part of the film, because the film surrounds, you know, a Jewish family struggling in New York, and them trying to find their place in society as one era transitions to another. But I do think James Gray was very smart and tactful about highlighting, like, the fact that this is not an intrinsically, I don't know what you would call it, I guess, Rabinowitz struggle. You know, for this family, there were a lot of different parts of the world that were struggling around them. Maybe in terms of our, like, uncanny valley and the way people sympathize, maybe that's what James Gray was trying to do, to have other people, like, sympathize with this world, even if, you know, the majority of audiences aren't Jewish, even if the majority of audiences aren't African American. All these people who are watching it, they all have a family, right? We all come from somewhere, and we all, I don't know. Thoughts on this? I don't know.
I don't know. My degree is in political science.
Okay.
So that.
I didn't know that. Interesting.
Thank you. It was a degree that I got basically to get a degree. No, I'm kidding. The main thing that I got out of it is a worldview and, like, a lens with which to view the world. And the second you started talking about, like, well, not everybody who watches this movie is going to be Jewish or black. And, like, I remember reading in a textbook one day, like, the, like, difference in, like, ideological backgrounds to, like, why you join a certain political party, and just being very alarmed by the idea that some people don't care about anything that doesn't have to do with them. And I feel like if anything will be the downfall of the human race, it will be that. Like, we have to care. Just because you're not Jewish, you have to care that, you know, Jewish people have suffered greatly in history.
Yeah,
and just because you're not black, you have to care that black people have suffered greatly in human history.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would be so concerned about, like in order to be relevant in the movies, everybody's got to be represented on screen. Like, no, you just kind of have to, like, find some common thread. I mean, I get it, like, everybody has a family, but, like, also everybody has a family conflict. Like, everybody's got dirty family laundry that they air, and if you don't, then I guess you open, what's the famous...
Can of worms?
No, all unhappy families are alike, or no, all happy families are alike, but all unhappy families are unhappy in their own specific way.
Huh.
There's no such thing as a happy family, but like every family's got a struggle, and that's kind of like where you find your footing. But I do also see that it's, you know, you talked about your broad strokes and, like, the global like nature of the movie.
I'd like to add, I think, going back to Dale's point earlier about the relevance of, like, the Trump existing in there, this now cues me into why the Trump part, as, like, just being a factoid to include, I don't really care about. But now if I think about class representation, you know, the fact that we have an African American perspective, we have a Jewish American perspective, and then we have, like, rich white people perspective. Like, all of these things are working in unison to express the protagonist and their family's plight in this film. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah.
Another issue that I had with the movie, though, is that I feel like it's Jewish when it wants to be. I didn't feel like the Jewish nature of the performances or the family itself was, like, called upon consistently. And I care, my family is not Jewish, so I don't know. But I also felt like it came up when it needed to come up, and then I mean,
That's like a
I don't
tricky
know.
thing though, because I think James Gray is Jewish and is writing it like from personal experience. But the trick of you can write that and try to make it authentic because you're writing what you know, but then trying to then translate that into casting, and then into directing, and then into like how important are all those like little details of a certain identity, how important are those things scene to scene.
Well, here's what after Grandpa
thing.
dies, Anne Hathaway's character Esther is sitting Shiva for her grandpa, and from what little I know of Jewish culture, the whole family would be sitting Shiva. I mean, what is that? That's like ridiculous that he wouldn't include that detail, and like that the father would have given so little of a shit about his own father-in-law dying that he embroils his wife in an argument right after.
It's not that he doesn't give a shit.
They didn't even stand by the grave when they're burying the guy. He's in the car.
Because I think that's more rooted in his relationship to his own emotionality. I mean, I think he's the father is like Mr. Graff is like he's not a man who discloses his emotions and his feelings.
But
so
what
it's
he
like
does
he has
in
a
the car is disclose his emotions.
Yeah, but
and
he
his
doesn't
feelings.
go to the grave, or he doesn't.
It was convenient for the movie, for them to be in the car and for them to have that conversation.
That's a
but
hot
it
take,
wasn't
Kat.
accurate.
I don't
That's a hot
agree with
take.
that. I don't agree. I think it's rooted in the character.
Then why is he sitting in the car opening up to his sons? If he
Because
can't
that's
access
how
his
he
emotions.
can. That's his way of processing and grieving.
And
that's
realistically,
the way
why do they go home and he gets into a fight with his wife? Especially after she says, I don't want to talk about this. I literally just buried my father, and now we're going to talk about where our son goes to school.
I think you have to remember that from the father's perspective, he is reconciling the fact that he has to live up to Grandpa Rabinowitz. And so I'm sure there's a lot of this, like, insecurity and, like, all right, well, now I got to take charge and be decisive and lead this family in the right direction. So for me, it checks out that, like,
Totally
one
fine.
of the first things that happens is, like, him pushing a point about a big family decision turns into an argument.
That totally checks out, not on the timeline. The timeline was on the writer's timeline. And the writer said, this needed to happen now because I need the son to overhear it right when Johnny's in the backyard, so he gets the idea that he'll run away with Johnny. That's what needed to happen for the movie, but that's not what was good for the story.
I think you're mapping I don't think the movie is plotted that way at any point. I don't think the movie is plotted in a traditional way at any point. So, I don't know if the movie is actually breaking a plotting rule that you claim
not a
it's
plotting
breaking because
rule.
it's not following any.
No, a logic rule. Like, how am I supposed to track this character emotionally? It's not a plotting issue. It's why is he making this choice right now? That's stupid.
Which character making which choice?
Irving making the choice to A, not stand by the burial with his wife, B, go home and argue with her about some honest nonsense.
That's the
I think
that's the character.
Nonsense.
I think the choice of what happens and when it happens.
That's the character. That feels like a cop out. That's the character, so it explains.
I don't think it's a
anything
cop
he
out. I
does.
think it's how the movie's written.
I don't know. I just felt like it was like glaring to me.
Yeah.
I was like, why is this happening? Why did they perform surgery on a 80-year-old man's cancer?
It's a different time.
No, so that they could have the scene with him by the bed. They would have done nothing.
I don't know if that's true.
I think it is. Why would they perform surgery on him? Especially because he died right after. Would a doctor have not noticed that?
Well, I think the idea was that they knew the surgery was unlikely to succeed. But they were going to give it a shot.
Yeah, you got to remember, Kat, some people do that, you know? Like, they do go for it. Like, Catherine, when Catherine was getting sick, they had to decide whether or not they could do anything for her clots in her leg, you know? And they decided ultimately that they could not. But if they could, then we might have done surgery on a 98-year-old person, you know, if she wanted to. And so that brings up the next question. Maybe the grandfather wanted to. You know, maybe he was willing to, rather than, and now we're talking about this out loud, that actually feels on character for Grandpa Rabinowitz because he's living in the moment, and I'm sure he's very, you know, accepting of death, but he's also a fighter. And the idea that he's not going to at least take a chance and try to do, you know, a surgery that gives him the opportunity to be with his family longer, he would go for that. I believe that for the character. In terms of you saying...
I don't believe it for the world.
You don't believe it for the world?
No, I don't believe any doctor would have performed that surgery.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, I mean, I guess this is you're hashing out what was ultimately one of your big issues with the movie. I mean, I think that's just.
To be fair, we also don't know what kind of surgery it was. You know.
Yeah, that's true.
Like it wasn't a
Very
long.
true.
It doesn't have to be a lung transplant. Maybe they were even just trying to remove part of the lung just to give him more time
Maybe.
or whatever. But yeah, and in terms just to my personal take on like addressing the father. This is super duper interesting to me to hear you feel that like he's not in unison with Anne Hathaway's character in terms of like being a member of like a funeral and a cultural expectation, but at no times did I smell bullshit. You know, like I feel like it's like a really uncomfortable truth, but not everybody goes to the funeral, you know?
Yeah, this is true.
It's also rooted in a specific time. It's like there's a specific expectations placed on him as a father, which is like to make, to make all decisions, and so
there's also kind of gender roles.
Yeah,
you know,
that's what I'm saying.
He
That's
kind
how
of
it works,
gendered the situation. He's like, she's emotional, she's gonna
Yes.
be at the grave, I'm gonna be over here.
He's projecting onto her that like the emotional response to the situation when he's in fact having an emotional response.
And there's a part of
I
me
agree with
that
that.
feels like what he said wasn't true. Like I really think it was a very subtextual moment where there's a part of me feels like he wanted to get out of the car. Like we find out within those following like 90 seconds to 2 minutes how much he respected the man,
Yeah.
loved him and missed him. And like it makes me sad even thinking about it. Like my heart is broken about the fact that you could call it a core memory. This man, the one person in his life that like think about this. Irving, right?
Yes.
Irving Graff marries into a family because he loves a woman, but nobody else respects him. And so he who has a Jewish upbringing, she who has a Jewish upbringing, wouldn't it make sense if he married into another Jewish family?
Yeah.
We don't know anything about his home life from the Graff's perspectives. So it sounds like his personal family doesn't exist.
Well, he said that they don't respect him because his father was a plumber.
I'm talking about his own family. Like, I'm not talking about the Rabinowitzes.
No, Graff's father, Irving Graff, Jeremy Strong's father, was a plumber.
Okay, so I misheard that line.
No.
I was assuming, and I'll say what my point is, and then we'll address that. I'm assuming that Graff's family, nobody respects him, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's around. And then the Rabinowitz in my opinion, it sounds like a new opportunity, like new life. I can marry into another family that also has the same cultural upbringing. And how exciting is this? And then I interpreted that line is that the Rabinowitzes don't respect him.
Yeah. Well,
and
yeah,
so
I think that was
both the Graffs and the Rabinowitzes don't respect him. And so only the grandfather respects him. It sounds like this man struggles with his masculinity. He struggles with being able to put food on the table. It sounds like regardless of being a part of, a Jewish community, he still can't get the respect he feels he deserves. And so finally, the one man that understands him and takes him in with loving arms, he's gone.
What now?
What now?
What
You know?
now?
And so I think being in the car, that was kind of a devastating moment for him.
Yeah.
I really think that, like...
I guess you turned my heart around on that.
Well, I also buy it because the man outbursts at his children all the time. And he outbursts because of how much he cares, and he doesn't know how to reconcile that. And then the first time in the film where we think he's going to do an outburst and he doesn't, and it just so happens that it's after Grandpa Rabinowitz's death, I don't think that's by coincidence. I think the man really had a wake-up call of, like, there are things that are more important.
That's good.
You know?
I agree with that too.
Like you were saying earlier, all the parents are focused on things that aren't important.
Yeah.
I think the death of the father, of the Rabinowitz, of the grandfather, really led to Irving being like, I need to look out for my son. I don't have to. You know how people talk about choosing to be right as opposed to like choosing to do the loving thing? I never really thought about this till now. Noticed how the mom, in her insecurity and disappointment, and Paul smoking weed and putting her opportunity to be
on the school board
Yeah.
in Jeopardy, she goes wah 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 to dad, right?
Yes.
With good reason. But she is, in some ways, you could say, a tattletale to dad. Dad in a very similar situation, where his reputation could be on the line. He's the father of a juvenile delinquent. Now the cops know that his family might be causing problems in the community. He doesn't go to Anne Hathaway. He chooses not to.
Well, I think in reality, there's some projections that happen between the two of them, between Irving and Esther, because Irving, I think, is actually more emotional. Esther is aggressive in ways that Irving is not.
Yeah.
And so she projects her aggression onto Irving, and Irving is emotional in ways that she's not, and he projects his emotionality onto her.
That's a great point.
It's just like something that's sort of happening. It's also really interesting, like when they're watching Grandpa Rabinowitz die, Irving says Paul shouldn't see this, and what Irving really means is I don't want to see this.
That's a great call, Dale.
And Paul is actually, the second time around I realized that, and Jeremy Strong's a very smart actor, so he says the line in the way where you understand that's what he means. Paul's actually fine with seeing his grandfather die, in a way.
He
right?
wants to, because
he wants to.
He's
He
a
wants to
child
be there
and
for
he's
the
willing
moment
to like
and whatever.
take every moment left. Yeah.
And Irving is really uncomfortable with the situation, and doesn't want to admit how vulnerable it feels to watch this man die in front of all these other people. So he says
That's
he
also
tries
what
to
the man represents to him.
Yes, but I think there's a lot of like interesting psychoanalytic things baked into these characters, and I think maybe at the end of the day, like for you, Kat, and I don't know how you feel, Gabe, but like maybe at the end of the day, those things don't amount into the best, most rounded out movie-going experience. But I think there's some really interesting shit in this movie.
I feel like this conversation has produced in my mind now a really interesting movie with like these strong emotional tethers and like complex things that are not often explored. Like it's not just teen pregnancy, but it's like something like your father-in-law is the only man in your family who respects you, like hard things. But I would totally agree that like if we didn't have this conversation, I was getting none of this. And I told you, like in a year I won't remember that I watched the movie.
For sure.
Now I might, because
you're
the
on the
analyst.
podcast.
No, because of the analysis that you two are doing.
Podcast.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Elon, you want to come out? You want to be part of this?
Kat, we're trying to call years from now. We're trying to call Kat. Kat, you want to come on the podcast? She's like, who are you guys?
Kat, you're not alone in this. Me and Dale have walked out of films that we did not feel good about, and we gave ourselves the permission to like, what does this mean? What does that mean? And there is truth, and I think us having a discussion allows us to find deeper value and closure in the movie-going experience and the way we carry it in our lives.
That's beautiful.
But I do think there is value to us as, for lack of a better term, members of the industry. We have to respect the fact that there is the literal product, and then there's the takeaway.
So,
and we can change the takeaway as we take it and internalize it. But like your initial feeling regarding the product is not invalid either. There will be a lot of people who will also experience that.
I think that you guys watch films in the way that every filmmaker dreams that somebody will watch their film. And I can do that when I want to, but I feel like I watch this film like most people would watch the film.
Yeah.
But
they
that's
sit there
because
and say, what do you have to show me? And then they leave.
Well, that's because it didn't land. If it had landed with
This
you on
is
some
true.
level, then
Yeah,
you would
I can
have
be very
ingested it
obsessive when I
differently,
love
think.
something. Mm-hmm.
So it's like me watching like I say very reductive things about Marvel movies because I
do.
don't enjoy a lot of the ones that I see.
Yeah, meanwhile, my ass is like crying during one of them. You know what I'm saying?
Right, like I'm not having that experience, so it's hard for me to access the analytical.
Yeah, I have to say that too. I've been like
framework.
reduced to tears by Bridesmaids made me sob.
Really?
Oh god,
I gotta
yeah.
watch. I feel like I haven't. I've seen Bridesmaids, but I need to rewatch it.
But I've also my stepsister, love her. She said that the movie made her sob too because it landed way too close to home at a time. But that was because it's a great movie, so it touched her because it was real. And again, like that's what every filmmaker hopes somebody will leave their film, obviously in tears. It means you really landed, but like if you make a great product, you could do it to anybody. You know,
Yeah.
not that my stepsister she's a very emotionally intelligent person. She's a very intelligent person, period. So maybe you just need to like be willing to offer your analytical skills to a movie. I don't know. This is a bigger conversation. Sorry, y'all.
No, it's
Don't be sorry.
No. Kat, an all-star of the Movie Addicts podcast.
I was
Absolutely.
fired like
She was
5
hired.
minutes
She's
ago.
fired.
Yeah, we brought
now
you
she's
back. We brought you
rehired.
back.
After Boyhood, I was fired.
Here's the thing.
Don't
We looked at
delete
your
it.
resume.
The Boyhood take was
We wanted
one
to
of the
give you another
craziest
chance.
left field. I liked that you brought up Social Network though, because I feel like people don't bring that movie up enough. It's one of my
Thanks, me
favorites.
neither.
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad they don't, though. It's mine.
Okay.
It's mine. When I
It's
love
yours.
something that much,
own
I
it.
don't really want to
You
share
own.
it.
You have a
Yeah,
1%
it's
stake.
mine.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
she's been collecting royalties for about 10 years.
Yeah.
So when you were criticizing your Sony camera, I got a little offended because that's who produced that movie.
Oh, is it really?
Actually, yeah.
Sony?
Sony? Oh, it is a Sony
Social
flick.
Network.
Well,
I told you when I love something, I get obsessive about
it's
it.
a Columbia movie, which Columbia
Which-
and Sony are.
yeah,
the
isn't
same
Columbia
company now.
TriStar owned by Sony or something
Well, yeah,
like that?
now it is. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
but
Kevin Spacey produced that film.
what?
Kevin Spacey produced that
OMG.
film. Him and Dana something.
Kevin
know.
Spacey used to be on. He used to be on top of the biz.
Yes, he did. Good point.
And then
He
we
did.
found out who he
once was.
actually is.
Wow.
Let's
move on from the Kevin Spacey thing.
Yeah, it's just.
It's never my favorite topic.
Colin
It's
is
never a
very
topic I
uncomfortable.
want to
Yeah.
get. No, I just don't want. I don't want. I'm out.
No, fair. Me neither.
Yeah, like I'm good.
I feel that way when people keep bringing up Twitter. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, or
man.
Trump. I can't. deal with the
Twitter
Trump
Twitter
shit right
needs to die. I'll say it here.
I'm hoping all social media dies. Be
I think
exciting,
it'll
be fun.
transform. And I think Dale and we spoke about this at one point. I think social media currently is existing as like the way everybody in a city, if they want to go out for a night, they choose a bar, they choose a club, they go to a restaurant, they go somewhere to commune, right? It's like having all the people in Los Angeles and there's only 5 bars to go to. And I think there will come a time down the road where it'll be more realistic, where people can commune within like virtual homes, virtual houses, virtual like.
And then I'll live in the Rica and have no phone.
That's it, baby.
You won't be able to reach me.
Yeah, Eureka.
No, I'll live in the Rica, Costa Rica.
Oh yeah. I thought
Eureka.
you were talking about somewhere like
My hair will be
Yukon,
long.
Alaska.
My hair will
or
be
something
long.
like
I'll
that.
just be
Dale, your hair will be long.
smoking a cigar.
Your hair's not long right now.
My shirt's off. Speaking Spanish because I learned Spanish,
Habla español.
Proud of you. Dale.
and it'll be amazing.
Proud of you.
All the kids will be in the metaverse. I'll be
What is with?
in the Rica.
Never mind.
Can I say that one thing that we were talking about in the kitchen earlier, which
Sure.
I do think was like super interesting, and I want your take on it too. The father, did he actually know the cop?
Oh yeah, this was a wild point Gabe brought up.
Yeah, and the reason I
Bring us home with this point. This is a
What?
wild point.
Yeah.
This is wild.
so in the film,
Gabe actually had a great theory here.
in that it could be real, it could not be
This is the kind of theory that could blow up YouTube if this movie were more
mainstream, right?
mainstream.
So the father in the car explains how you don't always catch a break, and we got lucky. And the situation is, as we know, that the son goes to prison, goes to jail rather. They pull him down to the police station for getting caught in a crime. And when Irving shows up, he sees the cop. The cop recognizes him, and he tells the son, "You got lucky because I cleaned the cops. I fixed his
water heater for free.
Water
think-
boiler, yeah.
yeah
that's what he
years
did.
ago."
Where's it?
And so the way I watched that scene, it occurred to me yesterday night when I was driving home from work. I was really curious if that was the truth. Because the way the scene is directed and performed and played out is the cop sees Irving and recognizes him on the spot. Irving does not recognize the cop. And there's almost a moment where you can see Irving choosing to be whoever the cop thinks he is.
The cop knows him by name.
Sure. He couldn't know him by name, but like I don't know. I just think that there's
Wait, you're saying the cop knows him by his first name?
He says Irv.
I don't know.
He calls him Irv.
I could be wrong about this.
What?
Yeah,
You
if you-
remember that? You remember distinctly
This is a good
remember.
detail.
Distinctly remember the cop calls him Irv.
He doesn't call him Mr. Graff.
No, he calls him Irv.
Damn, we got to get playback on this scene.
Yeah, I also.
And also, I know
Wait, so
that you
do
say
you're-
that Jeremy
you're
Strong
now-
doesn't recognize the cop, but Jeremy Strong's son is sitting in a lockup room. I'd
Who's
be
that?
a little distracted too.
I guess so. I got accepted
You were
about.
making an interesting point, and maybe the point crumbles if he knew him by name.
I'm sorry, it's a great
yeah.
point.
No,
We
thank you. I
wish.
appreciate that. I'll also
Great.
just for me to
We're
like
just
hang on
taking
to.
Kat's word for it then.
Yeah. Well,
he
here's the
says
thing.
Irving.
Let's just hang on to strings and let me have fun with this for 5 more seconds before it crumbles
Go
into dust.
for it.
It was a time at which white pages were available to everybody, and they did have the son's ID, and so they could have, looked up, known the father's name, and I don't know, maybe.
How would they have done that?
Well, how else would they get in contact with the father? They would go. They would
the
have
son
to go.
got the
They would
phone
have.
call.
Yeah, but he.
Wait, I might be mixing up Breaking Bad too, but
LOL.
I feel
No,
like
but I think
Johnny
I
asked
think
for
they
phone
would
call
go.
to
I
get
think
one.
they
We'll
would
have
be
to
like, "What's
rewatch
your?
the
Give us
scene.
a parent's name to come get you." Be like, my dad. It's my dad, Irving Graff, and then the cop would say, "Irving, what's going on?"
Yeah.
I
But
don't think your theory falls apart, even if what Kat's saying is true, in that he says he addresses him as Irving.
Here's the thing. The bottom line of the idea is that everybody catches a break, but I was very curious if it was possible that the father saw an opportunity to save his son's life, and he took it.
Maybe.
And I thought that was a super interesting thing because in terms of like the whole theme of like being a mensch, so to speak, telling the truth versus like surviving,
Yeah.
is it possible that Irving was doing something in that situation? I don't know.
Maybe.
If he did recognize him, which I feel inclined to be like, it's a simple situation, and Gabe's just like having fun with
It's
like a
more
little
interesting
conspiracy
your
theory.
way, but I don't know.
But yeah, there was just something that like caught me off guard in the car last night, where I was just like, that's kind of a crazy, scary concept. If the father really played the role that the cop saw him as, and was like, yeah, I don't know.
I think it was an interesting thought, Gabe.
Thank you, Dale.
Very interesting.
Yeah, thanks, Kat. Appreciate it.
One way or another. I don't know.
Well, I think we're
Boys
nearing
and
the
girls.
end of our
We're near the end.
conversation.
Yeah, I think
here.
we could always talk more about this. I think at the end of the day, Armageddon Time was a loaded film that said everything and said nothing at
Yes.
the same time. Dale, what was the tagline that you said you loved so much?
Well, on the billboard it said "the end of an era, the beginning of everything," which I really like.
Yeah.
We'll be right back at the Movie X podcast. We're gonna
And then we're
decide
gonna
if
wrap
it's
it
a cock up or a lock up.
The title was a bait and switch, was it not?
Okay, we're back, Gabe. We're back. It's the Movie Addicts podcast. Yeah.
So
yeah,
final
the
step of the
billboard
film.
would say, the
Oh,
end
go
of
ahead.
an era, the beginning of everything, which I feel like is accurate to what this movie is.
For sure. What is the
This
everything?
is one of the few movies I've seen recently where the marketing was basically what the movie was.
Right. Finally, thankfully.
Yeah.
So, I still have never seen the trailer for this movie. I did not read the logline going into this movie. I did not hear that. The only way that I knew that this movie existed was that every day I walked past this bus stop that had a poster in it over which somebody had drawn Hitler mustaches on every character.
Oh.
Which is so much funnier now
That's
that
also
I've
fucked up.
but it's been there for like
Yo.
2 months.
Oh
Nobody knew
my
what this movie was
goodness.
about. Nobody knew it was about Jewish kids.
I wonder, do you think that the person probably didn't know?
Maybe
that,
they weren't
right?
Hitler mustaches. They may have just been mustaches.
Yeah. Well,
They were in a black Sharpie,
I
so
don't know.
they all look like Hitler.
Let's go with
mustaches.
I
mustache.
mean, Hitler ruined that style of mustache.
He
What a
did.
So
fucker.
if your mustache
He ruined
is
his
a
own
little
name.
too short these days,
Dude,
Adolf.
my uncle's name was Adolf. You
Damn,
know what I'm saying?
he had to change, right?
you got to change that up.
I think he kept it, but like nobody gets called.
Adolphus.
It was the same era. Like nobody is named Adolf
Just
anymore.
change it to
No.
Dolph or Adolphus.
Truly.
Which is so wild because there's plenty of little
Or-
boys out there named Joseph.
I mean, also true, but to be fair, it's really, really common name.
So there you go.
Like, what's it called? There's a character from A View from a Bridge, I think.
Named Adolf.
Arthur Miller, Adolfo.
Adolfo.
Yeah, and he's an Italian character.
Yeah, he ruined that fucking name. But he also did way worse things.
Gabe and I just had the most intense
Thanks,
stare.
Dale.
Gabe and I in a scene together.
I don't know. It's good.
All right. Well,
Um,
Kat, is this a Do you know our what cock up? Well, you've never listened to the podcast.
That's not
so-
true. It was in the clip I saw last night. Cock up
okay.
means it's good.
Go on. Tell us what the description is. No, let it go. Let it go.
Yeah, tell us.
What is it, Kat? Tell us.
Tell us.
Lock up means it's good. Cock up means
No,
it's
see,
bad.
we gave it away.
Well, I did watch the clip last night. It was from Black Adam or something. You explained it to
Yeah,
the
for
nice
sure.
gentleman you had on.
Yes.
For sure. Okay.
So is this one and it can also, you can define something as a clock up, which means it's
Absolutely.
It's 50-50. So what is this for you?
I'm sorry, it's a cock up. It just didn't work for me.
Okay.
It's a good movie. You did a good job, everybody. It just didn't work for me.
That's brutal. Okay.
Dale.
Gabe. This one's a lockup for me.
Ooh.
It's a lockup.
Ooh.
This one's a clock up for me.
Okay. That's kind of the answer I expected from you.
Yeah, because I think there was so much beauty in the film that from somebody who enjoys films like Mother, Swiss Army Man, Everything Everywhere Always, these like
All at once.
massive, like overwhelming, like cathartic, poetic films. This is one of those things where like take all of that and then just dial down all the metaphors
Yeah.
and let it just have the nicest, smoothest, like slow burn, you
Yeah.
know? But for me, like living in that space, I felt value, I felt attached, but walking out, it still left things to be wanted. I don't feel inclined to watch the film anytime soon, and I really don't feel inclined to tell, like, I don't know if I would tell my dad to watch this film. You know, like I know people in my life who may or may not want to watch this film.
You gotta watch this movie.
Dad, nah, there's other movies
He's
my
like,
dad
"Gabe,
will be
what
into.
Did you recommend me as your dad? Dale, I'm directing my first movie. I want you to play my dad. I'm like, I'm honored. I just come in first day. I'm like, I just do my Michael Madsen. I'm like, Gabriel, you're a great boy. You're like, cut, Dale. What the fuck are you doing?
Dale, did you watch any of the clips of my father from the home videos?
Yeah, I watched him.
Cut to you. You like photoshopped Michael Madsen into every single home video. Thanks, Dale. Really looking out for my
Obsession with
father
Michael
there.
Madsen.
What?
You've got an obsession with Michael
I
Madsen.
am obsessed with Michael Madsen. He's one of the character actors that I'm the most obsessed with.
Fascinating. Does everybody have a character actor they're obsessed with? Because I do too.
Who's yours?
Michael Shannon.
Ooh,
Yeah, I mean,
I
legend.
love
good
Michael
call.
Shannon. Ugh.
Michael Shannon is an absolute beast.
Character
So
actor that
good.
I like.
It's got to come to immediately, I feel like.
I mean, the first one I would say is Paul Dano, but he's not a character actor, is he?
Nah.
Now, Paul Dano's like borderline leading man.
Borderline,
Yeah,
right?
weirdly.
Borderline.
Character actor. Daniel Radcliffe. He's really good.
He's leading man though.
You
'Cause
think
he's
so?
got Harry Potter under his belt. So.
Yeah. Now he's going to be Weird Al. too.
Damn. He's
Yeah,
gonna
well-
be
So, no,
Weird Al.
I'm trying to think of
I
an
don't know
actor.
if I have a favorite.
I feel like I have more than one, but I
But
can't
I-
think of them right now.
What about like? This sounds. I'm like pulling at straws now. Like I like Nathan Lane. He's really good. He's a character actor.
I don't know enough about
He's
him.
in Mouse Hunt, man. That's all you need to know.
He's in the producers.
He is. He is in the producers.
Okay.
He plays Timon.
Nathan Lane, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Who's the
Shout
one
out
that
to Mouse Hunt.
everyone loves? Crap, who is he? He's a Latino actor. Oh, God.
Shawn Mendes, who's in Lao Lao Crocodile.
Shut up. No.
Got him. Come on.
Damn.
Come
Did you guys watch the Waco miniseries?
We got her. Kat, I just want to say
I'm the best guest you've ever had.
you were one of the worst guests
Fuck this guy.
we've ever had.
Unbelievable. With my
I mean,
nice
is that
central
fair to
voice.
say, Game?
Dale, it's really hard to just speak the unmitigated truth.
And
sometimes.
it's just, I just wanted to say it before we all, listen. Outside of the podcast, we can, be cool and all that. But I just had to say this is one of the worst
Makes you
episodes
think I want to be cool with you.
we
yeah,
ever had.
we're definitely this
This is
week.
one of the worst episodes we ever had, bar none.
Yeah, the
You were awful.
viewing count's probably gonna be really low. Clips.
It's gonna be
I might not even get one clip out this week. I
I'm
don't
not
know.
engaged in this line of dialogue until I find out the name of this actor. It's going to drive me nuts.
He's in Waco.
He's in the miniseries Waco, but like, why is he there? I mean, he's a small part.
Yeah.
Oh crap.
Oh,
One of
Emery
my
Cohen's
favorite.
another one of my favorite.
Yeah.
characters.
Oh, me too. I like that guy. Okay, we
Character
can be friends. Hold on.
Oh, John Leguizamo. He's in that new. Violent Night film.
Is he? Do you think he's a character actor? My
Violent
brothers
Night.
are like, I love
Oh,
this
wait.
actor. And
John
I'm like,
Leguizamo.
who the fuck is
He is.
I know him. I know him.
He's not a character. I know he's definitely like a
Violent
supporting.
Night. We're not gonna pod about that, right?
Absolutely, we are. What are you talking
Absolutely, we are. In Santa hats.
Dale, is there anything?
There's more important
Thank you,
movies. I'm
Kat.
just saying it's not gonna squeeze out a movie like Babylon or anything good.
Oh my lord, I can't wait for Babylon.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I love Margot.
So we're
Robbie.
doing Wakanda and then The Menu because I'm dying to watch The Menu.
Yeah, and Andy Nalathambi is supposedly coming in for The Menu.
Who's that
We'll
guy?
see about that, Andy.
Yeah,
We'll see.
he's
I don't know who he is.
keeps eluding us. He's my
Shame
manager.
on us once.
Show me his Instagram.
Shame on me. Shame on us twice. Shame on you.
There's a saying in Texas, probably in Tennessee. I think it's in Texas. Shame on me. Fool me once, shame on me.
Fool me twice
fool
and I'll kick
me-
your ass.
Fool me, you can't fool. I can't get fooled again.
We got a J. Cole fan here too.
But that's like a real. Isn't that a real George Bush quote?
Yeah, it's his audio in the song.
What?
That's
Yeah.
funny.
But J. Cole does sample that. So J. Cole like samples. Gabe wouldn't know this, but
I
since you're a
did
hip-
not know this.
But yeah,
That's
J.
funny.
Cole samples that George Bush speech clip in one of his songs.
It's
really, really
It's
funny.
on Forest Hill Drive, but it's not She Knows. It's not A Tale of Two Cities. It's
Yeah.
the opening one. It's the one where he's
I
like,
can't
first
remember the
things
title
first,
of the
rest in
song,
peace,
but it's
Uncle
a good
Phil.
song. Yes.
Shit.
Uncle Phil.
The world's changed a lot, guys. Give me grace. I don't have any memory.
I think the world has gotten worse. We can tackle that in another episode. And
I do want to point
It's
out
worse
this is
by
our
the
I love
longest.
me leaving that.
This is our longest episode.
Maybe you have a really good
No,
conversationalist
it's
on
not.
it.
We've had like 3-hour
I
episodes.
don't think
Alright.
so.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on, Kat.
You're
Esteemed
welcome.
guest. You are actually
Kat, you
welcome
crushed
back,
it.
You're
despite all the
You
stuff that I
crushed it.
said.
Thank you. Despite the bully.
You're welcome back.
I'm not coming back unless I get a snack next time.
We'll have the dinner party, and you'll.
This is true. Dale takes out the entire
God.
equi-
All right, well, this
audio
was-
equipment.
This was the Movie Addicts podcast.
I had a great time.
Thanks so much.
What's your name?
Katerina Pate.
This is Colin Dale.
And I'm Gabe.
And now I'm going to Disney World.
Yeah.
Mic
all
drop.
right.
Let's
I'm
go,
kidding.
son.
Fuck Disney.
All right, that
Disney.
was-
Wow. Wow. We like Disney. Disney sponsor us. Disney. Disney, please sponsor us. Disney.